Hello, Collegiate Overwatch community. It's a pleasure to welcome you back for the first game of the NECC fall season. I'm Tiny Shiny, joined by Chu Tryhard Ray. We are ready to kick off our day with some excellent Overwatch gameplay. We got two matches coming up for you tonight. Our first of which is going to be in the Division 4. Ray, how are we feeling about it today?
I'm feeling great. We'll go ahead and pull up those teams for you. We have the UC Patriots going against Messiah Esports. And the one thing we know, especially when we're diving into Division 4, a lot of these divisions we don't get to see on display as often. And given we're in a new season, we're in week 1, everything is up in the air. Everyone has a clean slate. Both teams have an opportunity to really show out and make themselves known in Division 4.
Yeah, this is a chance for a lot of these players to grow and continue to evolve as a team. Of course, Ray, being week 1, with the exclusion of placements for NECC, which took place last week, this is very well some of the first time of these players competing in an actual collegiate match on stream with all of these different pressures, nuances of an actual competition in itself. So with the UC Patriots and Messiah Esports, it's a blank slate for both the teams. They're a blind side looking at each other, but also for us as viewers. This is how we get that first taste of what Division 4 has to offer this season.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Just nice little taste, you know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, a lot of the teams could still be working out kinks. Like you mentioned, they did do the placements. And, you know, Collegiate is, you know, just starting out. It's very early. You know, they all got back to school here in August, so they haven't probably had as much scrim time as they would have liked, but they will be ready to go. So let's go ahead and pull up just what order of maps we're going to be going into today. We do have the first map for you guys. It's going to be Busan for Control.
Busan is the first pick, and honestly, Ray, when we heard that for the first time, I was a little surprised, because typically, especially when teams have the opportunity to pick what map it is, Lijiang Tower is often the direction that we tend to lean. So seeing a Busan in the mix is a very different change of pace for a lot of our typical Overwatch enjoyers, and does tell me that there's a really good plan that's set in place for this map in particular, because it doesn't come up nearly as much.
Busan's also an interesting map choice because you have diversity within the map picks. Like, Mecha Base is always going to be so much different than the other two maps. Mecha Base almost predicates you playing some semblance of a brawl, whether, you know, that be Orisa, whether that be, you know, a Winston more brawly kind of comp, a Ramatra. But then you get into the other maps like Downtown, and then you get into Sanctuary. Those maps, especially Downtown, tend to be a lot more leaning toward those dive comps.
This was a University of the Cumberland's map pick, so it does tell us that they feel flexible. They're confident in their ability to perform on multiple compositions here. The main spot where that is going to be highlighted, the likely, is Cryo. Being in the tank, and with really only one tank, like, in the game, obviously, you have to be able to cover as many of those bases as possible. And with what we've been seeing lately, D.Va has been the name of the game here, particularly on Downtown, as we see the dive. Yet, Ray, when I look at what the University of Cumberland was teasing right now, Cryo instead is hovering the Winston.
Yeah, the Winston's still a popular pick, but I do think D.Va is the more viable option we've seen most of the time, as we see Dizzy going over to the Junker Queen now, so they are going to play more of a get-in-your-face Reaper May kind of composition. So Cryo's going to have to be very careful. There's not I mean, the only one who's really diveable is the Juno, but you got Stucio, who should be able to protect on the Brig.
Yeah, Cryo has to be extremely cautious, otherwise you get a wall to the back and a whole bunch of shotgun pellets to the face. Neither are great for a Winston player, and UC Patriots by far have a disadvantageous comp, just running out of the gates, perhaps scouted by Messiah Esports at the very start. They'll be getting a little bit of buying for this point control at the beginning. Once again, so much more frontline stability for Messiah just at the start, and UC Patriots, you can see how hesitant they are to poke their faces in and just let the point flip over to blue.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of options for the front-facing battle. They have to look to isolate and find a target. They have not been able to do that so far.
No, and it's only now that players are starting to go in. Stucio trades one out for Mecha on the other side. Patriots are down a single support, and in the long run of things, that's really going to hurt this dive team. So ideally, you'd want to get some sort of reset, or at least to get a better position. Unfortunately, this position is on the point, and Dizzy has missed in the sights, pulls them closer with a knife, follows it up with a nice axe. The JQ player, incredibly strong performance from Messiah.
Yeah, nice throw of Gracie there, and absolutely on point to make sure that Mist Viper was not going to get away there. And now you're in the situation, if you're Messiah Esports, is you get to control these chokes as the Patriots are trying to dive in, and already the Ana goes down. That's the power of being able to hold, and they can't get a lot of room.
Yeah, it's the second time that Ian has been the one to go down first, while Ana can have so much utility to bring, as she's not very survivable, and you have to be very cautious of your positioning. Cryo had to get aggressive, didn't have the Ana in the backline, popped Primal Rage for some extra health, but UC Patriots responding with an orbital ray here, simply too much damage to handle, or at least you should think. Messiah Esports were just one step ahead here, and once again, both support ults, all that are needed to start to close this out, even though it looks a little bit scrappy. Firmly, the Falcons stand on top.
A lot of ults were thrown into that fight on the side of the Pages. They threw in 2 in exchange for 2, essentially. It's actually 3 for 2. So that's a losing situation there, and they weren't able to flip the point. We wish you could have had some of those back, and now they're going to be facing a Blizzard, a Death Blossom. There's just so much. They're going to have to be so careful on their approach, but they don't have a lot of time.
And it's all on Mecha. This Nanoblade, that's what you've been banking on for the entire game so far. Pulls it out of the sheath, trying to find a target, but gets antsied up. The rest of the team has fallen to Dizzy's rampage. The Blizzard chucked on the objective. There's just nowhere for UC Patriots to go. They put all of their eggs in the basket of Mecha and Ian's ultimate combination, but got absolutely no return. Messiah simply too far ahead to be knocked down at the end of the day. And it's looking that downtown firmly looking to Messiah.
Again, that just felt like a big compositional difference. The Winston going against a May Reaper Junker Queen, there just wasn't going to be a whole lot you could do. As we mentioned at the beginning, the only person you can even look to get on top of if you were Cryo was that Juno, but Stucio was just doing a great job of being that bodyguard like you would in a Bring On competition if you're playing Juno instead. It was just very well played by Messiah.
At the beginning, when you see that your tank is getting countered as hard as that, UC Patriots, they were so stuck on that one plan. They wanted to get their ultimates and decided to just go down that path instead of risking being at an ultimate disadvantage. And at the end of the day, it didn't pay off too well. So now that we head to the brawlier map of Mecha Base, UC Patriots have seemed to have learned their lesson and will be pulling out the Junker Queen. But little do they know, Dizzy swapped to the ROM.
Both teams realize that on a map like Mecha Base, the brawl is going to be what reigns supreme and what is king. The question is, this Junker Queen into this Ramattra, I mean, you're able to put a lot of pressure. So for this Junker Queen, I feel like you just got to ignore the Ramattra, so you're not going to be able to take him down.
Nice shots, though, from Grip Reaper. A lot of pressure on these hit scan. We talk a lot about the tank angle here, but this Viper and Grip Reaper have been pelting a couple shots into each other from across the way. But it's really these Mei walls that are more of an issue. Scattered, though, not a great position for an ice block. Dizzy tried to keep their Mei player alive, but ended up paying their own life for it. So at the end of the day, Messiah Esports, for the first time, should be sent back to the spawn rooms. Patriots can get themselves some percentage.
Yeah, and I think the Patriots did a great job
Point?
of just being extremely aggressive in these situations. However, they did lose Mist Viper, so now you're in a situation where you can't even afford to be as aggressive as you'd like to be, and the isolation is already on display against Cryo, and he's down.
And they didn't even cap the point, right? They waited so long to do it. The point only now being capped, but you don't have a tank. TLS Midnight isn't so healthy. Ian's got to heal them up as fast as possible, but this is not ideal for UC Patriots. They were in control of that fight for so long, but it was the objective that mattered at the end. It just never got there.
Yeah, something you just don't see every day. I didn't even realize it until you mentioned it. I'm just so used to people capping by default. And now Messiah, they have control of these chokes, and they have a Blizzard that the Patriots are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, the Blizzard now coming out on tandem with that Rampage. So many ultimates to go through, get Cryos completely negated like it didn't exist in the first place. We'll get 2 for their troubles, but Cryo, you're definitely going to need to get yourself out of that one.
And again, Messiah are continuing to take equal, if not advantageous, ult situations. They traded Blizzard for both Orbital Ray and Rampage, so I feel you're going to take that every single day if you're Messiah. If they can keep this up, it is going to be a tough day for the Patriots to try and get back into this fight.
Their ultimate management and objective, just overall management has been great. The early Bob from Grip Reaper shortly mirrored after, but the big key here, you lose out on Ian. Ian has been the punching bag for Messiah Esports this whole time. The one vulnerable core that the Patriots rely on to push forwards. You lose them so early, it's near impossible to recover from just these little pellets.
I mean, you're going to get the escape if you're Mecha on the Reaper. You have the Death Blossom coming up, but you're just isolated now. The Ramatra's going to go down at this point. I mean, you're going to get healed up, but I mean, you're already down in numbers. However, Gert Reaper's down.
Yeah, this Viper reopened the door for the UC Patriots. Cryo now mirroring the Ramatra. But once again, you fall into that issue. Little Jim, Orbital Ray, Dizzy has an ult as well. You're at a bit of a disadvantage. What can you make of it? All three ults placed on top of each other, and it's only Mecha that escapes with a sliver of life. You can't say the same for the Juno player or Cryo, though. Messiah Esports, they want to win this here and now. No additional rounds to be seen here on a Mecha base. UC Patriots never even got an opportunity to use that nano. Ian only coming back from the spawns, and now not a chance to put a toe on the objective. And that'll be a Messiah Esports 2-0 for Bassan.
I think we'll have to see how this series progresses, Tiny, but I think what we conclude from that map number 1, it seems like Messiah is going to have the brawl advantage in this series. So I think going forward, if you're the side of the Patriots, you got to try and take it to maps where dive is king, and you're not going to be able to play any kind of brawl, because their Winston composition didn't look terrible. It was just going into basically its like worst matchup. So you put just looking at, I mean, we go to Escort and Hybrid next. Depending on what the ban is, I would be thinking about going to like a Dorado, going to like a New Bonnie, like maps where dive is what you have to play.
Especially if you're not going to run a Mei. Mei is by far one of the best DPS heroes right now. Mainly for, if you believe it or not, Ray, for her ability to kind of fill that hit scan role that we've been seeing lately. Because Mei is a lot tankier, you have a wall to defend yourself, you can ice block, and your shots do what, 85 damage by default? Double that to the face? Actually insane from a hero. Mei is literally just a sniper, and I think if you're not going to have that asset in a lot of your brawl comps, not to mention for the isolation and the ability to change the architecture of the map altogether, it's going to be very difficult for UC to come back and try to dismantle an opponent who is playing that just stronger hero there. I agree. We need to see a switch up, something that forces a different composition and a new look out of those teams, and we can't really judge the dive yet. We didn't really even get to see much of it, because Cryo was so afraid of 2 shotgun characters and a Mei the whole time that he could never make that decisive decision to engage.
The question is going to be, if you are the side of Messiah, what is your plan going into this ban for Hybrid Escort? Because this is like new territory we're in where Hybrid, it's a choice between Hybrid and Escort. So you have to pick, I believe, one map to ban between all of the selection of Hybrid and Escort. So I don't know if you just go into a situation where you just scrim so much and you know what maps you're bad at and you just ban that map and you will just, take Sophie's choice on the rest. I don't know. It's interesting decision now that we have both of these map choices combined into like map number 2.
It's a little bit different. So the loser in this case would be UC. They get to pick whether we play a hybrid or escort map. And then from there, that's when Messiah would pick a ban. And then after that ban, then it's another pick. So really, if you're the losing team here, you have a lot more utility to choose from. And I like this. It makes it so we don't ever see any escort because it's always on map 5, or same thing goes for hybrid. We're not stuck in King's Row every single game, right? So you can switch it up a little bit more. It's a really cool and unique decision for a collegiate map pool, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. It just makes the choice that you're going to make all the more important, because you aren't going to have the utility to do it again, especially if you end up winning forwards, which is obviously the goal moving forwards.
Which is interesting because, as I mentioned, they probably want to go to more dive-centric maps. The problem is, let's say you pick hybrid. I guess in hybrid, there's kind of two maps where dive works pretty well. So you have Numbani and you have Blizzard World. So it's like, okay, they can only ban one, but I say with escort. So you go escort. If they ban Gibraltar, you go Dorado. If they ban Dorado, you go Gibraltar, so on and so forth. So I think no matter what, you got a good situation. I just would not be trying to give an opportunity to go to King's Row. Like that brawl matchup did not go well for you there on Mecha Base.
We do have confirmation that it was hybrid that was picked, and Hollywood is the ban from Messiah. So.
You know, I forget that map exists. That's another dive map.
It is, yeah. So that honestly could have been the best choice there. Paradiso is still available, but Ray, if we're going off the overall basis of the Overwatch community, and I see you shaking your head with the face of disgust right now, we don't like Paradiso. That's not. Look, it's a
beautiful map.
It's so pretty. It's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but gameplay wise, I cringe when I get that in my comp games.
Well, that's the thing. It's so hard. It's so hard to properly execute because you need absolute picture perfect timings in order to actually make a play with how many high grounds they are and how suffocating that they can feel. So we're not going to that map, thankfully. We are going to go to this. I don't know how to feel. It isn't Brawl necessarily. It ain't Dive either, though. We're going to Midtown, which has often been leaning itself towards more of a poke map as of late. We could really start to see some of this D.Va come out. D.Va has been ridiculously OP as of late with the patches. Even though she got nerfed, she's still been being played a ton just with her speed, combined it with Juno and her ability to execute players.
Legitimately, the two tanks I think of when I think of Midtown are D.Va and Sigma. So, I mean, they're going to favor themselves really well to poke-style compositions. Defensively, you know, Sigma tends to just be a great stalwart. And then, you know, if a D.Va's coming and charging your face, you have a bigger Creature Rock you can just throw at them. And then offensively, as you mentioned, D.Va just has so much utility. Throw in the Juno with that speed boost, and you just wreak havoc. So I think that's what we're going to be in for these teams. So we're going to be able to see some new looks out of both of these teams and see how they adapt to different compositions, which is always the mark of a good Overwatch team.
Yeah. And Messiah showed us how strong that this little death ball brawly comp can be. I'm scary. If they got another thing that looks like that, or just stick with what their guns have been showing them, I don't blame it. If you set up a brick wall with Dizzy as well as Scattered on this Mei, and think of how devastating this first choke is, Ray. You can't go through that subway car. That's pretty much instant death, so you have no choice but to go under. And if this is the pace that UC Patriots want to keep at, it's not going to be either the Sigma or the D.Va, as we predicted. Cryo teasing the JQ for now, but may end up changing once they see what Messiah is holding up on defense.
And not only are you going to have to deal with a Mei changing the architecture of this map, but while you're dealing with all of that, you're going to have Grip Reaper on different angles, whether, you know, they go to that high ground by the subway or they just hold back. You're going to deal with Ash, Dynamites, and Fire completely raining down on top of you. They are going to come out on the Junker Queen initially with the Ana Juno. The question is, do they take a look and make any kind of swaps?
Well, they do have a general idea of what Messiah are holding up on, but hey, who needs a swap if Mecha just gets that pick onto Grip Reaper? Okay, you go ahead and take that. Genji, C-tier hero who? Absolutely not. Nice little knife there from Cryo. UC Patriots already showing us a much different look coming out into this map. And it's not in terms of composition, Ray. It's in terms of confidence.
You can't ask for any better with Mecha getting immediate pick already puts you in a 5v4 situation. And in those types, especially when we're at the level of collegiate, you get yourself into 5v4, it is very hard to lose those fights. And it was just very well done. And as you mentioned, they just look like they have confidence now, and hopefully they can ride that and make this a series.
You get beaten down 0-2, map number 1. That hurts the mental, right? That really does hurt, but that doesn't seem to affect Mech at all. That's the second time that they have found the first pick onto Grip Reaper. The Genji doing exactly what he needs to do and canceling out any sort of hit scan presence. Miss Viper essentially can reign over this point for free, and Messiah Esports have to now find a way to stop this bleeding, this staggering that the Patriots are forcing on them.
But Mecha gets a little too big for the britches. It gets taken down way too aggressive there. And now this is Messiah's chance to move in.
Yeah, see, I said confidence, not like cocky. There's a difference there. That was a little cocky out of the Genji player. Bit off more than you could chew. Same thing goes for Miss Viper. You see, Patriots, you got the point. Just take a deep breath. You got 5 minutes to push here.
plenty of time. No need to worry. I mean, like you said, if you just continue to play with this confidence, just don't take it too far. As we just mentioned, you're going to be in a great spot. I mean, the big issue they're going to be facing right now is having to get Grip Reaper off of this high ground. We're going to see if Mecha can work some magic and find an opening pick on them once again.
Mecha almost a Dragon Blade too. Lots of utility to work out with. Here's the rally that's popped first. Nice Bionade. Stucio, sliver of HP. Can anyone finish him off? No, Little Jim gets the healing into their break player. And Messiah will still 2 supports on their feet. You're gonna need it with this oncoming onslaught. Mecha into the back. Grip Reaper is priority number 1 for this Genji. You can see how Mecha just books it for him anytime that they lock eyes. Cryo does go down, overstays on this payload, and Stucio, the superior brawling power of Messiah is just too much for UC Patriots to handle. They need to play at this further poke or just get in, get out range, because if you fight close, this is exactly what happens.
And what a great wall from Scatter to just not allow them to get out. There was an opportunity, if that didn't happen, that they were going to be able to get out scot-free. Scatter said, no, you're not getting out of here today. Wait, the blade was popped?
Already? All right, I mean, I like it, Mecha. Let's see, what can you give me?
Yeah, you sure you still like it?
Yeah, you know, never mind. I wanted to believe, Mecha. I wanted to believe in you. I truly did. You're a little crazy for that. Not gonna lie, bud.
And now that's just gonna waste a little bit more time. You don't have the ult. I thought maybe he'd be swapping, but he's still gonna stick onto the Genji.
Yeah, I saw the dream. If the Nano came in, perhaps there was a chance, but none of the team was there. All 5 players had their eyeballs so locked in onto that Genji player, and now you're down in ultimate. Scatter can chuck the Blizzard in for free. It only does catch the Bob, though. A necessary sacrifice to keep UC Patriots up. It'll be now the Nano onto Cryo. Good boop, though. I believe that was a whip shot out of Stucio that prevents their team from getting hit with an axe swing that could have ended several of their players, but the inevitable happened to the opposite. Little Jim re-entering with Dizzy, marching on through. And UC Patriots, once again, have burned half their time bank.
These walls from Scattered have been absolutely magnificent. Every time the Patriots are trying to make a steady retreat to try and reset, Scattered just denies them, and the team is able to follow up so beautifully. So not only is Scattered doing a great job, but the comms are there to be like, hey, they're right here. They're trapped. Get them.
This is the worst spot in the map for UC Patriots comp to fight. You have to worry about Scatter's May walls, which he hasn't been missing. Grip Reaper is the high ground. You have to fight Dizzy and Stucio standing next to each other, or, again, May is a sniper. You're gonna get out-sniped by the icicles here. You just simply do more damage.
I was about to say, I mean, there's that May sniper you were talking about coming through strong, getting just clicking heads. Absolutely ridiculous, and this is why people hate May. Like, not only are you great close quarters, but you can just headshot people and get easy picks. UC Patriots, this is a great opportunity for them. They'll be having, I mean, they get Grip Reaper, and they have the Rampage to work with.
Grip Reaper, if anyone's going down first on Messiah, it is Grip Reaper. They're just not having a good time at all. And it's have to be a whole lot less if Cryo manages to get this Rampage off in one piece, waits for the stun, pulls it through, 3 players painted in purple. Dizzy almost has a Rampage of their own. Messiah very well have a way to fight back into this, and they're sustaining at least almost all of them except Scatter just shy of the Blizzard. Dizzy has to be the hero here, goes in, has a little bit more touch left on the payload. Everyone's antied up, no healing possible, and UC Patriots can't even use those hard-earned ultimates. Will find themselves with just a single minute left, Ray, to get to this final checkpoint.
Dizzy being able to get that touch at the very last second with the Rampage and get a couple kills with it was absolutely crucial. As you talked about, we're going to see key ultimates coming in for the Patriots. The question is, are they going, I mean, they only have less than a minute left. Are they just going to go with the Naked Blade, or are they going to hope that Ian builds up to this and you've already lost Viper?
Again, Scattered is a sniper. Treat him as such. Miss Viper, that's the second time that has happened in, what, 2-3 fights? You can't do that. You cannot do that, especially when your team needs to make one final push. UC Patriots are poking in and out, hoping to grab any more ult charge, but Ray, that's working out better for the defense, if you ask me. Look at that. You have Bob and Blizzard and Orbital Ray. You gotta march up to the high ground. Commanding Shout's already out. You pop an Orbital Ray. There's no escape whatsoever for Little Jim, though. You try to take the trade. Mecha, now it's your time to be the hero. That's 1, that's 2. Dashes up to the high ground while the payload is being contested. No one left on Messiah to get there as Mecha has chopped them all down. Even when it looks dreary there, Ray, UC Patriots found a way to pull through.
The patience pays off. They're able to get that nano blade off just in time to get what they needed to get the point across, but they're not going to have a lot of time. They're going to have just over a minute to get this delivered, so they're going to have to be perfect the rest of the way. They can only afford to maybe lose a fight or two at this point if they're trying to get it delivered, and Grip Reaper's going to be able to stall a bunch with this incoming Bob.
Yeah. You know why these fights the UC have been winning? Not only because of Mecha, but also watch where Ian is throwing these bionates. He's had some serious impact. Like Little Jim was in the orbital ray. If he didn't get hit with an anti there, that fight would have turned out much differently. Ian has had a lot of impact on this game so far. He just needs to stay alive to do so. Of course, as I say that, I do apologize. I can take some of the blame there for you, Ian. Mecha just trays out for Stucio. Not the end of the world. You still don't want to push when a Bob is looking you down.
Caster Curse, however, Viper strikes back, gets the Reaper, so the Snake is able to take down the Reaper that time around, and Rampage in the back pocket as well.
Rampage here, Cryo being very patient with it, and I like it. UC Patriots know that they're nearing this final fight territory with how low Cryo's getting. You kind of have to pull it. That's 3, including the supports here, Cryo and Mecha, the 2 tag teamers that have been popping off for UC Patriots. Whenever these fights are won, it's because of those squad.
Oh, they did get Ian at the very end there, so
yeah.
this re-engage from Messiah is actually going to be big. Now we get the Lucio coming out from Stussy to be able to touch at the Rampage.
Yeah, Rampage on to 4. There's no way to escape, but you gotta take the kill. It's gonna get that no! It's the first game! First game of the season, Ray! This can't be happening. That is a true C9. Messiah had that fight in the bag.
Oh, I just saw it felt like their eyes went wide when they saw the purple, and they just forgot about the point. You can't do that, Messiah.
It's too soon. No. I was about to compliment how good Messiah's macro planning has been. They always know where they need to be, and then you pull something like that. I'm sure the UC Patriots fans are pretty happy with it. Don't get me wrong, but Messiah, they're gonna have to show us some serious stuff here on this attack to kind of make up for that massive error.
Listen, we have no biases here. We're just biased to good Overwatch. So,
yeah.
And that just, that wasn't it, right?
That one hurts.
C9s just make casters cry. Like, we just get so upset about it.
It's like it's literally just a sucker punch. Like, everything was going so well. Where did it all go wrong, you know? Hey, here's what could happen though. Messiah could just come back, they could roll on through, and it's like it never mattered in the first place because UC Patriots, they didn't cap with any time on the clock, which is one benefit from this situation. So if Messiah managed to get all the way through with over a minute left, there is no possible chance of losing in this map. 2, compositions are going to remain the same for now. So let's see what Messiah are able to work with and how they can recover mentally after that last play.
They do have Grip Reaper going over to the Reaper on this one instead of the Ash, so they're going to go for more frontline brawl capabilities, which, you know, it could be fine. Cryo's going to have to be careful, but it could let Mecha and Viper be able to feast.
Yeah, see, that's the hard part, is with Miss Viper, when you're walking in with Reaper, the hit scans are very scary until you're, like, within hugging range, so if we're trying to walk down a main angle straight, you have to do it as some sort of protection.
Yeah, exactly. So if we see Grip Reaper already swapping over to the Cassidy to try and, you know, be able to combat at least with somewhat of a mid-range. As you say that, now they're going to go over to the Ash to just match it, which I think is just going to be the smart decision. Especially to be able to get through this underneath the tunnel area. Being able to get a pick off early like Mecha did just makes your lives that much easier, and that's what the Ash is able to provide. Yeah.
Now, the UC Patriots who wanted to have more of this poke style of comp, this is where it pays off. You can play far back. Your opponents now have to walk into you. Scattered gets much less value. Same goes for Stussio. Your Brigida player is essentially useless until you can get into range to prop that Inspire, your passive healing. Typically, you want your Brig to be somewhere near your tank and kind of bash and just keep them off. You can trigger this. Otherwise, look how low all the health bars on Messiah are. They can't even manage to heal. Dizzy up on time, whereas Ian's resources are infinite.
Yeah, you're in a situation for the side of Messiah where they're trying to push him, but they're just taking so much damage on the rotations, and the Juno Brig cannot keep up with the amount of healing. I mean, now you can use an Orbital Ray to try and provide that healing for this next fight, but, I mean, I think that's got to be the plan. This looks like your only way forward right now.
you have to try. Like, look how close UC Patriots are getting to this Dragon Blade, even an orbital ray of their own. You're gonna make a move. It's gotta be sooner rather than later, but it's in Bionade onto Dizzy. You can't even heal them. The orbital ray is useless for when you don't have a tank player, and it still ends up going out. Messiah, they look so good in map number 1. There was not a single falter from this team. Yet now, Ray, it looks like we're walking a completely different game.
And the Patriots are just playing with so much confidence. I mean, now they're able to, I mean, we talked about the big mistake in the first map was they were taking disadvantageous ult exchanges. Now that was just 1-for-1. They're able to keep their blade, and they're able to continue to apply pressure on a Messiah. They're just on the back foot.
And this is great. Look at, I mean, Mecha has a Dragon Blade up here. Even if not all of them have been great, if Mecha plays with the team and makes sure that they are aware that he's using a Dragon Blade, full confidence in this player. He actually carried this team through their first point attack, but Cryo, no, you can't be doing that, buddy. Rampages straight into a shield blast. Ult gets canceled, back up against a wall, and it's Mecha ready to go nuts. Slices through 2. Blizzard on the point, though. That's scattered. That's the triple kill out of the May.
And that might have just saved everything. The Rampage is going to come out, it sounded like, but from Dizzy. And that might be able to be the nail in the coffin. You still got 2 to deal with, and it's just not enough. Players are coming back from the Patriots with 30 seconds left. Messiah is facing a lot of pressure because all they're going to have is a Bob.
And that's not much to look out for. That was the fight that Messiah have been playing to win all game, Ray. And just like that, poof, it's gone. You see, Patriots didn't even need Nano Blade.
No, they did not, and now they're going to have that for this final opportunity. They're going to have to hope to get massive value out of this. Bob Nano Blade comes in.
But it might be too little, too late. Mecha slices Little Jim to pieces. That's 2 and 3. Mecha, this is his map. This is his game. And the UC Patriots better be standing up to give this guy a high five, because what a performance from the Genji. I didn't think I'd be saying this, Ray, but we are all tied up.
It is insane. It's been like the tale of 2 completely different maps. Map number 1, the Messiah just absolutely dominate, and then map number 2, in comes this whole new Patriots team, and they dominate. So the big question is, was map number 1 just a warm-up for the side of the UC Patriots, or is this going to come down to these map picks? And if it is, we're going to have ourselves a crazy series.
I don't even, Ray, to me, this felt like UC Patriots, something was going on. Either they were extremely nervous coming into this game, or just weren't entirely sure what the game plan was after the Winston didn't work out. Whatever happened, this was a new day. You figured out what Messiah want to play, and UC Patriots adjusted accordingly while adding their own twist, and that twist was Mecha. Cannot emphasize the impact that he had at enough. Like, think about the amount of just the Nano Blades, but the first picks was on Rip Reaper's back. He couldn't get anywhere without having a Genji on his tail. The rest of the team stepped it up, not to mention canceling this ultimate. It all looked good. This should have been a lost fight for UC Patriots after that, but look who came to save the day. None other than Mecha.
It was just a well-orchestrated, well-coordinated map win for the side of the Patriots. They just looked like whatever, group huddle they had after map number 1, whatever they changed up. I don't know if they, messed with the comm structures at all, but they looked like, because they were playing this Junker Queen composition on Mecha Base, and it did not go as well. So whatever changes they made, keep it up, and you can win the series.
It's a newfound confidence for the University of the Cumberlands, and we absolutely love to see it. Messiah completely shutting them out map 1, yet now they got a taste of their own medicine on Midtown. This is one roller coaster of a series, Ray, and I cannot wait to see how it continues. We're gonna head to a quick break, and we'll be right back with some more NECC Overwatch action.
This is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey man, grab me a meat stick. I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh God! No, come on, just reach. Reach. Just grab my hand. I can't hold. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is. Oh!
to week 1 of NECC Overwatch competition. As I said before, a break, roller coaster of a series to kick us off. Messiah came roaring out of the gates on Busan, 2-0 shutout, total of 10% gained by UC for the entirety of the map. Then we go to Midtown, full cap out of UC, newfound confidence, whatever pep talk worked just to come back right back around and full hold on the first objective. These teams have the ability to turn around in either really big or rather not so big ways from what we've seen so far. And it's now Messiah who finds themselves with their first map pick on push.
As we're going to pull up, it's going to be Esperanza, which It's probably the, how do I put this? Like, I think in general, I think most teams would say this is probably the best of the push maps. I'm still of the belief. I mean, not the best. I mean, now that Runasapi's out, it's kind of different. But the longer, like, the more time they have to like work on the concepts for these map types, the better it gets. That's why I can't stand people who hate on Clash, man. It's like, just give them some time to work on the maps. I mean, everyone hated Push when it first came out, and people have really come around on Push.
See, he says this as we were just all hating on Clash before we started stream today. Hey, Clash could be picked, and it very well could, because that is an option for map number 4. But we'll have to see. Map 3 is up first. Esperanza is the selection for now. And typically, Ray, when we see this selected, it often screams dive. Some sort of Diva or Winston to be played. We saw some Winston earlier on from UC. It was iffy, didn't go so well, and there's been no other look out of Messiah. They've only played either Junker Queen with Ramattra. The entire rest of the team has stayed exactly the same on their Mei Ashe. So this map pick really does puzzle me.
I mean, to me, the big question is just going to be, how did these teams adjust? I mean, Mecha was doing work on that Genji, so do you make an adjustment to go possibly to the Winston, where the Genji will struggle against that? Or do you just continue to stick to your tried and true, because you know it went so well for you on map number 1, maybe you just make a little slight adjustment to that Junker Queen Ramattra composition? I mean, we're going to find out here shortly as we take a look at what these teams are rocking. And it looks like for the side of the Patriots, I mean, they're going to continue to rock with this comp, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As we're looking at Messiah, they seem to be making full stop changes. They are going to go over to the Diva on this map, and they're going to go with the Tracer Sombra classic dive.
Mm-hmm. I like this. Little surprise is the first we're seeing of Tracer today, but I really like this. UC Patriots struggled against fast pace and teams who took the initiative first. That's exactly how Messiah won the first map, and it looks like they want to replicate it here.
And again, this first fight is just going to all be about controlling this tower, and for the Tracer Sombra is being able to coalesce at the same time, but also take different angles, so they have to look everywhere to be able to find kills.
That's going to be this one point of assassination, execution in massive target on his back. It's only a matter of getting to him. If last time I checked, there were 3 little bodyguards just circling him, making sure that the window isn't gained. It's going to be off of that speed rate where that difference is made. But instead, it's Grip Reaper who gets caught out, trying to go for a bit of a flank here. The Diva unmatched, at least for now. But that's where we can start to see more of this highlight plays from Messiah. They're fast-paced. They're able to regroup a little faster. Problem is, you lose your tank.
The issue for the Patriots is going against this Diva. You find Stucio, and that's going to be a cleanup for the Patriots, but in general, your Ashe, your Ana, and your Juno are going to be extremely diveable. It's not like Messiah, who has the Brig Stucio to help protect Little Jim, so you're going to have to be extremely careful. Dizzy can find a lot of value if they play this right, especially with a Sombra living in your backline.
You're basically raid boss. Nobody can stop you. If Dizzy were to isolate a Squishy, and not even needing the help of Grip Reaper and Scatter, but if you do, that's even better. It's not looking good for a lot of these sub 250 HP heroes. It's picks like that that are going to make the difference. UC Patriots had the high grounds under lock only after Little Jim went down. Did Dizzy try to address it, and it cost them their life once again.
As man, the Patriots have woken up after the map 1 lulls, and it just looked absolutely dominant. Missed Viper on this Ashe, just being able to control this high ground and not allow Messiah to get an angle or get an inch, as it's coming closer and closer for them capping the first point, and they're going to get it.
Yeah, Messiah, just now, they're swapping over to that Junker Queen. You lose Scattered a little late. Respawn's right there because of the point capture. Still sticks on this Trace. You don't have a lot of damage now. Messiah just need to go back to their comfort zone.
I agree. I mean, they're going to have Grip Reaper go over to that Mei, so you're going to be able to isolate for sure on Cryo. It's just going to be, I mean, between the Tracer, the Mei, and the Junker Queen, is there enough to be able to get Cryo down before that Mei wall gets destroyed and Recall's already forced out by Scattered? You got to get out of there.
Scattered's in big trouble. You can't be re-engaging these with the Tracer. One person turns around. Scattered be in a world of hurt. But since the rest of Messiah, they know the Tracer can't bother them on the flank. It's instead Cryo and Mecha that you should be worried about. That's the Rampage with a bunch of DPS follow-up, and the UC Patriots still marching forwards.
Wow, for the Patriots, just feels like a whole new world. It's absolutely insane. The switch they flipped after map number 1. I mean, you're going to be going into a pulse bomb and the orbital ray. You have a lot to work with the Patriots. They just need to make sure they conserve their ults well.
That was a great Maywall, but an even better hyper ring out of Midnight actually kept Cryo alive here, and this is the play you've been saving up for. Mecha wants to be the hero again, and why don't you let him triple kill with the Dragon Blade? UC Patriots round the final corner. Ray, can they even be stopped?
I mean, 3 ults were used there in exchange for pulse bomb, so Messiah's going to have a decisive lead in the ult battle. All there's left to throw onto the field is Bob, and they're going to be able to touch.
Yeah, they'll get the touch out, but what do you have to work with? Only Little Jim's Orbital Ray. Bob is poking at your back line. Someone needs to make a play. Someone needs to step up, and Scatter's already down. Cryo, though, is done out of Rampage for the second time. Stucio makes the play, but he doesn't have the health to live on. Messiah, they have the micro, but the macro, these big moments are still lacking. The Blizzard comes out. Only now Grip Reaper and Dizzy find their first appearances in the kill feed, and Messiah Esports are going to hold on by just a hair.
Messiah coming through big with getting those ults just in time to be able to use those because things were looking bad. And now for the side of Messiah, I mean, this is going to be quite the uphill battle. I try and say never when it comes to push, but this is going to be tough to overcome. But I mean, we've seen so many back and forth one-sided affairs. Maybe we're gonna get 2 one-sided affairs on the same map.
Oh, I mean, look at this, though. This is exactly what Messiah wants to do. If you need to win multiple fights, force staggering. Keep the payload moving and force UC Patriots to stagger. Even with this cooldown change, Ian still won't be back by the time you fully engage. Ms. Viper settled right along with him.
I mean, by the time the next fight even happens, they're going to be at a point where this point might already be capped for them, which is huge. The issue is they're going to have to get massive value out of this pulse bomb. Because in this next fight, if you don't end it quickly, Rampage is going to be online and you have nothing to deal with it.
No, Rampage here should just always be a fight loss in those situations. Messiah Esports are okay for now. You got the captured point, which is what you wanted, but you got so much further to go. Pulse Bomb chucked in, and that will be the end of Cryo. Not before they did enough damage, though. The backline of Messiah severely wounded and down several pieces. Robot not even being pressured. Messiah Esports are just trying to keep the pieces that are still alive.
Yeah, without your tank, you can't afford to push very far, so Messiah's going to be able to gain a little bit of metering. But with Little Jim going down, that is all but over. Patriots able to clean up and take control of the bot once again. And with, you know, basically a meter and a half or so, it's like, what, 141 to cap it. So, I mean, all you have to do if you're the Patriots at this point is just play really good defense. Make sure you re-engage and get control of the forward spawns and control this high ground. That's going to be pivotal to making sure you can ride this momentum all the way and go up 2-1.
It's an insane comeback to have to make at near 140 meters. Absolutely ridiculous, but it's going to be possible on any map. It's going to be on Esperanza, but not if Mecha plays the hero. Triple kill with the blade once again. Has not gotten less than 3 unless it gets shut down midway. Almost getting the ace. The team wants to give it to him. You can tell, but oh no, Scatter not going down without a fight. The deflect. Woo! UC show them up, and once again knocking on Messiah's door. Dizzy over to the wrecking ball. In an attempt to touch, which at least you guarantee that. But what else you have to work with? You got a rally, you got an orbital ray, you better hope at the stage you're through. It cancels again! Cryo's Rampage! Stucio has canceled 3 so far in this match. A heroic play from the Brig that just keeps coming up when it's needed the most. It's just not enough. UC Patriots were too far ahead at the beginning. Messiah had a glimpse of hope just to have it shut back down. UC Patriots will take the lead and put themselves at match point.
I don't know about you, Tidy, but I feel like, you know, I've been dabbling a lot more in support recently. I'd be so pressed if I was that Brig. I'd be like, I have stopped 3 of their ults and we can't win here. Like, oh man, that'd be so frustrating. But for the Patriots, to come back from disaster of map number 1 to look like this. I mean, it's relying on big time plays like getting those big nano blades, and then it's relying heavily on Viper and Mecha to get early picks in this fights. But I mean, they're just continuing to get them. I mean, who knows if, you know, Messiah can make some adjustments to just not allow that to happen, because if they're able to do that and just limit these early picks, they have a chance to force map number 5.
It's not impossible. Like what we saw from Messiah back on Busan, they took initiative. They went out of the gate looking confident and literally told UC Patriots, you are playing our game, go home. That's what happened. UC Patriots took a break between map 1 and map 2, regrouped themselves and said, wait, this is our series too. This is very much something we have a chance in. They stepped it up. Massive plays coming in from Mecha, from Cryo, anybody on UC Patriots, whenever it's needed. And this has pulled them through all the way to map 3. And you can tell that ball of confidence has just grown bigger and bigger to the point that it's looking to snowball over Messiah. They need to go through the same process, the one that UC Patriots had to go through in order to mount a comeback now. Because those are 2 maps that were very one-sided, Ray.
That they were. We're going to have to see if adjustments can be made from the side of Messiah, or are we going to be looking at a clean 3-1 from the side of Cumberland, you know, Busan without standing. They've just been dominant ever since then. I mean, kind of bring up for the next map, it is going to either be Flashpoint or Clash. So for the side of Messiah, I do think the fact that they've been a fan of more of the brawl, and that's where they've succeeded when they did well, these maps are going to cater themselves a lot more to being able to play those types of compositions.
Here's the thing though, Ray. Clash is just, it's weird, all right? It's a really weird map to pick from a competitive standing, and many teams haven't been scrimming it too much to begin with because it's not in every single tournament map pool at this point. NECC is in fact one of the few that is including Clash at this time, and I feel like there's almost an unwritten rule of we just won't pick it. Flashpoint has been around a lot longer. You've played Flashpoint more because there are just 2 maps. You should know New Junk City and Suravasa like the back of your hands at this point. So a decision does need to be made. Are you going to go to a more comfortable map pick in a Flashpoint potentially, and you have to match this brawl again and hope you can put Scattered back on this May, find some of this original mojo that you had back on Busan? Or are you going to risk it for the biscuit? Pull out a Clash, not as much experience there, and hope that you don't get snowballed as badly as before. Because like Push, Clash is also very punishing for teams who get off on the wrong foot.
I agree 100% with you. And for the side, we know, this is a must-win map for them, or they're going to be taking their first L of the season. As we talked about, week 1, these teams, a lot of unknowns. We're entering a brand new semester, a brand new year. So it was going to be a lot of what do we expect out of these teams. We're in Division 4. Glad to see this division on stream, but what can these teams bring to the table? And we've seen flashes of brilliance from both teams. We just need to see more of that Busan Messiah than what we've seen these last 2 maps. And I think we'll be going to map 5, and this could come down to the wire if we see that old Messiah team.
You know what we need, Ray? We need both teams to come out with their best foot forwards on the same map. So far, that hasn't happened. Right? It was Busan, 100% Messiah. They came out. That was their game. Not a question about it. We thought this would be the fastest 3-0 of our lives. Yet here we are, heading into map 4. And it's, of all teams, it's the University of the Cumberlands who is on match points. Like, if you put map 1 Messiah against a map 3 University of the Cumberlands, we very well could be going to a map 5, or at least get ourselves past the 8-minute mark of a single map so far.
I mean, Midtown was kind of a decent amount of time. I mean,
it was like 8 to 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think we passed the 8-minute mark on that one.
It was short.
So, we at least were able to do that. Just keep in mind, folks, we are waiting. We know that we are going to Flashpoint. Shocker, shocker. So we'll either be getting Suravasa or New Junk City. I used to think, back when Flashpoint was still new and people were still scrimming it. I felt like Saravasa was more of the popular one, but recently I feel like I've been seeing a lot more New Junk City than I have Saravasa. I don't know if that's changed in the eyes of a lot of teams, but I've just been seeing it a lot more.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting too. I'm on a collegiate team myself, and we've only pretty much been playing a New Junk City lately, and it's often because you have two maps that are very much indoorsy, close quarters, you hold choke points, and then you got two that are more open. They play differently, whereas Saravasa, a lot of the objectives feel very similar. I think Palace is the one exception to that. Temple is pretty much identical to Ruins, and Gardens is relatively similar to Market. So we look at that, it's about the same. Apparently, we don't like variety from Messiah. We will be going to Saravasa by the looks of it. So, no New Junk City. Back to good old Faithful, where we seem to be the most comfortable. I don't think this is going to change anything compositionally, like, at least due to the map type and architecture itself. It is entirely up to the teams about what front they decide to show us.
This is still a very strong Junker Queen map, so I think for the side of the Cumberlands, we're probably going to see that come out. I think Messiah is going to be the big question mark. We've seen quite a few different tanks out of them. Do they look to go back to that Junker Queen, that Ramatra that they did so well on Busan? Do they look to play the Diva like we saw in Esperanza? I think that's going to be the big question. How does Messiah adjust to try and make sure a map number 5 is forced?
Well, clearly they think that Saravasa is the best way to do it. It's not it's honestly a really good map pick for UC Patriots, too. I don't think that they're too uncomfortable with it, unless they're in the same boat of, we've only been scrimming on New Junk City lately. We're gonna have to wipe the dust off of that. Unless that's the case, this is just a perfect map choice for UC, particularly if you're wanting to keep Mecha on this Genji.
I think only time is going to tell. We're just waiting for the readies on those teams, and we'll be getting you guys in there immediately. This could be it for the Patriots. Do they bring it home and win 3-1, or does Messiah make those necessary changes and force a map number 5?
We know they got it in them. We'll just have to see. Is it an element of survival? Do you have to have your backs completely against the wall? Down 2-1, and then that's down 0-2. Is that the kind of awakening call that Messiah has to have here? Well, we're gonna go ahead and find out here momentarily. No substitutes on either side. These are very in-depth rosters. I think there's at least 9 players on each time. Yeah, at least 9 players on each team, which is actually really good for a collegiate roster. You're so close to having 2 full squads. You can substitute anything you want while training your next sort of group of players once some move on and graduate. So I'm very glad to see the amount of interest at both of these schools.
Yeah, especially like when we all know in Division 1 and a lot of Division 2 schools, we're going to see a lot of that interest and a lot of players in there. But when you start getting into these lower divisions, it's nice to see, as you mentioned, the amount of interest. As both teams are going to go to that Junker Queen. So Messiah back to kind of what they were playing on Busan, except Grip Reaper is going to be on the Sojourn.
Grip Reaper is a bit of a flexible muscle, but you get to strike gold on any one of their hero pools yet. Sojourn, not in an awful place, but you can't quite have your disruptor shot deflected back off of you. That doesn't feel so good. So I want to play at this more sort of pokey range now, looking for a wall. Unfortunately, that doesn't land its mark, except just guarantee that Messiah have the first capture point. Mecha starting to go in, feeling out. Messiah has pack in this game, but you can tell UC Patriots are really fearing Scattered.
Yeah, I mean, with this poke composition, it's tough to get aggressive and look to engage because you're kind of just looking for picks. It just hasn't been found yet. Ice Block is forced out. This is an opportunity, but they're able to get around the corner. So, I mean, the Patriots, they got to make a move here. They just can't keep standing here and not finding picks.
But that's that May wall you're afraid of. This Viper was on a great off angle there. UC Patriots, they tried to go in, bait the May wall. Unfortunately for them, Dizzy only ended up with an anti-nade and having to use most of your healing resources to do it. In terms of ultimates, it'll be Midnight that will come to theirs first. You have to hope that an Orbital Ray here can help you initiate and finally get some forward progress. But just so you know, Little Jim has one to mirror it right back, and you don't have an Ana. The impact of Ian is felt before he gets sent back to the spawns. It's Stucio's turn instead to pull out the Brawling May, become a mini Reinhardt and slap a couple people across the face. Very scrappy across the board, yet it seems that UC Patriots managed to stabilize just with a Bob to cap the point.
Getting the Bob out there is actually pretty big for Messiah. They're not going to have to deal with that kind of stall coming up, and they only got to win one fight to flip this, and they're going to have Blizzard and Overclock to work with, plus the sustain of the rally. I give advantage to Messiah in this next fight if they can just bring it all together and make sure they're moving as a group.
Ready to use Commanding Shout to get in, but look where Reaper's position. Nobody on UC Patriots can get over there, so Cry takes it on themselves. Rampages across the point and make sure this Overclock gets no value. UC Patriots have sat up in their gamer chairs and are back in the driver's seat after being shut out that early part of market.
Yeah, that was absolutely disaster. That was 3 ults in exchange for that Rampage, and you don't get that fight win for the side of Messiah. All they're going to have is a Rampage of their own, so you can kind of take advantage. It's not like there's a cleanse available for the Patriots, but they're going to have to move fast as we're already 85% and counting, and this ticks up fast on Flashpoint.
Ideally, you can't really get a contestant here. No one is a fast hero. It has to be Dizzy to initiate, but you're walking right to Mecha's Dragon Blade. The Maywall enough to deter him for the time being. The Messiah split, and without their friends to go ahead and regroup with, there's not much that you can really do against the UC Patriots, who is firing on all cylinders. A much closer point, though, Ray, from what we've seen in the past 3 maps.
Yeah, I mean, that went 99-99. It seems like we're definitely getting the better side of both teams in this map. The question is, for the Messiah, does the fact that they got that to 99 and then it basically got reverse swept, does that get in their head? Are they going to be able to still perform to the level we saw on that first point? And, I mean, Dizzy will be able to engage with this Rampage, and, I mean, not much you can do, especially when you get Viper like that.
May's a sniper, people scattered. Finds an icicle between this Viper's eyeballs. Jim, just go ahead and follow that up. Hey, I don't think the mentality was affected, right? That was a pretty confident push. That big shout out to Scattered, though. I don't think you get in with that positioning out of Miss Viper.
I don't know. You want to know what I think, Tiny? I think we need to make a T-shirt for you that says "May is a sniper." That's what I'm thinking at this point. Like,
I'd like that.
Like, maybe, you know, put you and May's face on it, and it just says "May is a sniper," folks. Like, that's what we need. But Messiah, now that they have control at this point, all they got to do is make sure they have someone spying where the Patriots are coming from, and they can take full control as that Rampage comes out.
This one will actually land, though. Cryo and Dizzy will exchange blows, but that orbital array from TL's Midnight that actually makes the difference, and we'll send Messiah packing.
As the Patriots were the aggressive ones in that fight using the orbital array and both the Rampage pretty early, Messiah had that orbital array and Blizzard to be able to use, but they just weren't aggressive enough, and they basically got popped and lost players before it was advantageous for them to use it, so that it's just better to wait till the next fight. So now if you're scattered, you're going to have to find a good way in on this May and get a good angle to get a good Blizzard in this next fight.
Yeah, I'd like to see some sort of coordinated push off the Command and Shout. Dizzy is oftentimes forced to use it before the fight actually engages. This time, though, you got the orbital ray to back you up. Everyone out of the way of the Bob for the most part. It gets no value, and Dizzy scattered. Find themselves in the backline, exactly where we wanted to see them. Lose Dizzy, Papa Kitsune, and shut down that Dragon Blade. Mecha can no longer be that hero. Grim Reaper, the ultimate villain, shutting down Messiah one step at a time, and will manage to clean up and get the flip back over as you see enter one fight territory.
They did make this this change to have Stucio go over to the Kiri, and it's like basically limiting the value that Ian is getting off of those anti-nades. I think it's going to be a good swap. The question is, do the Patriots look to counter swap this at that point? Because it's tough playing Ana when you got a Kiri on the other side.
Yeah, the amount of impact that Ian has significantly decreased since Stucio made that swap. If you're Cryo, though, kind of happy your Rampages can no longer get shield bashed. Your Reaper already has another ultimate, mind you. Insane build-up. You get one, you get two. Kind of easy to shoot them when they're frozen into one place. And okay, Ray, I see it now. Both teams are coming into this. We've traded objectives back and forth, and we're heading to 3.
Yeah, there she blows. Objective number 2 goes to the side of Messiah Esports. I mean, the only thing, I mean, you'll take it. I mean, it took a lot out of you ult-wise, so the Patriots are definitely going to be in the stronghold position for this next point. But, I mean, really, if you're Messiah, I would just look to, even if you lose this next point, like at the beginning, you let the capture happen, you just got to force out a decent amount of these ults out of the Patriots. You can't allow them to win this fight and just have this huge ult bank to continue to hold.
No, ideally, Messiah, you would love to win the fight. If you can get at least 2 ultimates from the Patriots, that's a win in your books, especially since they already have the point. You'd rather engage quickly, make them use the resources while they still have them. It was a bit of a slow burn. Eventually, Miss Viper gets a bit impatient, chucks Bob. That's a great position for it. Forces the May wall. Messiah attempting for a bit of a kite here, and I do admire that. They don't want to risk any of these staggers. Miss Viper in a rather terrible position. It's Scattered who finds her head once again. I'm not going to say it, Ray. I've said it enough times. Y'all should know what Scattered just did. Messiah now have ultimates of their own to re-engage, and that's the type of patient game we want to see. Stussio, though, no Suzu on their side. Not that it was even needed. It's Dizzy who answers back with a rampage of his own that grants Messiah access onto this point, but they need to get the flip because you see, they've already gained well over half.
Yeah, they're going to re-engage and get this point, and I feel like, you know, despite giving up 70%, you got out 3 ults for the side of the Patriots, and really you only used 2 of yours, so you put yourselves in a pretty great position. The only problem you face is you have a Nano Blade incoming, so I feel like you're going to have a pretty well-placed orbital array to give you the healing, but also to give you the damage to try and focus down Mecha, or at least force him to use that deflect and waste time with that blade.
It's going to be really hard to withstand Mecha here. We managed to shut him down the last couple times his ult came out, but they find their way into the backline for Group Ripper. You got to trade it out, and Stussio takes things into his own hands. A bloodthirsty support launches himself straight at the backline, disregards the Genji entirely. That is a great play out of Messiah Esports that grants them control.
It was very well played, and at this point, ticking up to 80%, I don't even know if the Patriots are going to be able to touch. They don't have any ults, and I think at this point, you might just look to give it up. I mean, worst case, maybe you're able to touch it, you try and force out Orbital Ray. I think that's probably the best look you have if you're the Patriots, but they're not even going to touch.
No. At that point, it would have been such a staggered touch that it simply wasn't worth it. And unfortunately for UC Patriots, they were banking on getting to the next objective first. It's just behind them and closer to Messiah's spawns, yet walking straight over to Palace.
I mean, just the RNG gods are blessing Messiah right now. I mean, they can engage with not only, again, Reaper has the overclock online. Seems like they're just farming one every single fight.
The impact that Grip Reaper has had on this Sojourn is insane. Since at the beginning of this map that Grip Reaper has played, like, what, 3 different heroes? 4 now with Sojourn? And this is the one that's actually sticking. The Sojourn is the one that's having the impact. Please don't die on me, though. You're taking a lot of poke there, buddy. Overclock online, waiting to pop it till more Patriots pop their heads out of the corners that they're hiding in. You may have waited too long, though. Cryo has found their way into the front line. The Bob is poking towards the back, and even though Messiah clearly had the tools to use to win that, they never actually used them.
Yeah, I would say that's been the one thing for Messiah that we've seen on this map when it hasn't gone well, is they're not looking to aggressively use these ults. They're going to have a lot to come back and re-engage, so that's going to be 4 ults, but you've allowed UC Patriots to build it to 2 pretty big ones, so it's going to make their job that much easier to deal with your 4 incoming ults.
Got it set up for them first. I like attacking this high ground, especially if you can dislodge players. If we gripped Reaper's ultimate out first, doesn't have an angle to work with the bright well, it's just enough.
And that's going to be a nice, clean fight from Messiah, and the best part is it only costs 2 ults, so you're going to take that every day, and you got the Patriots to use the Orbital Ray, so I feel like all things considered, that's a pretty favorable fight. You're going to take the lead percentage-wise, and you're going to have a Blizzard to try and catch the UC Patriots off guard, and if things get bad, you have that Orbital Ray as well, but Nano Blade is coming up for the Patriots.
Man, Whew, that was such a good fight. I started choking on air there. My goodness. UC Patriots now can smell. They can taste that map 5, Ray. They win this fight right here, right now. Then they will manage to get that upset and show that UC Patriots, they still have some fight left. Scattered's Blizzard is out. Yet it only keeps Cryo from retreating to their team. And it's Scattered who instead ends up falling. Rampage, Nano Blade. UC Patriots not taking any chances, using every tool in the bank to ensure that they're not going to go down just yet.
I think that's one too many ults. I'm not sure if you needed that Rampage in there. The Nano Blade seemed like it was doing its job. They already had an opening pick. So all you're going to have is a Bob for this last fight, and you're going to have to deal with not only an Orbital Ray, but Stussio should be able to get this Kitsune rush. If Messiah plays their cards right, they should be able to flip this and take the map.
It's everything in Messiah's hands. This map could be theirs. They gotta touch it first. Surely not again. Yes, they do get the point contest, but just barely. Sport Ultimate's in play. Messiah can overpower them, but Vice Vamper uncontested on the high ground instead the Bob as running amok on the point. Too much damage that was uncontested. There's no way to run away from it, but it's scrappy. Dizzy has managed to trade this out. All the meanwhile, Messiah Esports are coming roaring back into this point. UC Patriots, they got too overconfident. Your one ultimate is still coming back from the spawn room, and you just have to hope you can stall it out enough. It's a 1v1 at the point, but with no health remaining. Rick Reaper shall take it. UC Patriots waiting in the wings, but no, they can't touch Messiah Esports. Ray have done what we thought was impossible. We're heading to map 5.
Yeah, and it was just nice key swaps. I like seeing Scatter go back over to the Mei, and Grip Reaper on the Sojourn was popping up. And that's one of the heroes I didn't expect to see like that on my bingo card. Nothing against Sojourn, but they've just kind of been in a bad place for a while. I mean, deservedly, in my opinion, because they were just so good since they were invented into this game. Yeah, so it's just surprising to see that Sojourn being the key to turning this around and going to map number 5.
Yeah, look, of all heroes, too. Grip Reaper single-handedly won several of these fights. We talked about how UC Patriots, they came back. It was with Mecha. They needed a hero, and it was Mecha who was there, and now it's Grip Reaper. They want to play, they want to kill all the stories. They want to kill all the storylines. The UC Patriots have built up the ultimate villain, if you want to call him that, but a hero in the eyes of Messiah. I mean, you wanted someone to really show up big, and you have your player on the Sojourn of all heroes. And they're going to try to end it out here in a map 5, Ray. And that has to be Escort for these teams. Brawl commonly not played in many of these different map types. So it'll be an interesting route as we look to conclude our series.
Folks, we got quite a series on our hands. We kind of were asking for the best of both teams to come together in one map, and I think that map gave us a good glimpse into that. I do think we could see a little bit more out of UC. They have one more map to prove it. It's all going to come down to map number 5. It'll either be Hybrid or Escort. We're going to throw it to a quick break before we see the conclusion of this series, and the next series after that. We'll be right back.
What am I supposed to say?
It doesn't matter. He's dead. He ain't listening to you anyway.
I'm hungry.
No. Put it away. I can't put it. Oh, crap. Just reach in. You gotta pull it. Just grab it. Just take it out of his hand. What do you mean you can't?
He won't let go.
What do you mean he won't let go? He's dead.
Help me. Get in there. No, just hold on.
Make him let go of it. No, I got you. Just go in for a hug. Go and get on in there. It's a bad loss. Yeah, hug him up. Just reach. Hug him up.
He's breathing. I think it's on the other side.
Go.
I can't do it.
Help me, Lord. Help me get over this loss.
I can't breathe.
Yeah, I can't breathe. I'm so upset. I can't breathe. Stop. You knock on wood so they go to heaven. It's like a lucky.
Hey, get the stick.
Yeah. Hey, did you get the meat stick?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, just hold tight for a second. They're moving the casket. Just hold tight.
Yeah, that's no worries. I got it.
that our first week of NECC Overwatch is off to an excellent start. Map 5 in the first series on broadcast so far, and we didn't think we'd be here. 3 one-sided maps, the closest being our last one of Saravasa. Messiah have found their mojo once more and are going to push us to a final escort selection. And it's a pick that, after all of the JQ, all of the Ramatra brawliness that we've seen today, we picked Circuit Royale.
Legitimately, I was kind of just like zoning myself in during the break. I wasn't really looking at anything. And I look up as we come back from break and I see Circuit Royale on my screen. I'm like, wait, what? That is the last map pick I would have thought that either of these teams would want to go to, because Circuit Royale is just such a Sigma map. Like, we haven't seen that out of either of these teams.
No, not at all. And picking a map that should, in theory, I'm going to emphasize the in theory, make us play a new composition at this point in the series where it has been the opposite of flexible, with the exception of Reaper, who just popped off in the last map on Soj. It's a little concerning. Like, what's really going to be the plan? Brawl has been making a rise on this map, but it's with like a Reinhardt or a Ramatra. These teams seem very married to the idea of playing a Junker Queen with a Mei. It can work. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you haven't specifically practiced this composition on the map, there's very specific spots that you have to be fighting in and you have to be playing in order for you to properly get value and ensure you're not playing in sight lines that are at a disadvantage to you.
And your snipers and long-range hit scans are relied heavily on a map like this, whether it's Widow, Ashe, Hanzo, all these kinds of heroes that are wanting to just play from distance and poke and find picks. So it relies heavily, a lot of the time, on like solo care. I mean, yes, you have, maybe a Mercy here or there, or like a Brig who can throw you packs, or a Sig who can throw you shields. But as you mentioned, in poke, it just relies on the heroes to pop off.
And you know who popped off in our last map? Our good old friend pulled out the Sojourn, Grip Reaper. That has been the hit scan player for Messiah all game long. If you want someone that's a mid to longish range hit scan to really continue popping off, this is a really good spot for Messiah to continue to do so. Yet at the end of the day, this was the UC Patriots map pick. Miss Viper has only been playing Ashe, pulls out the Widowmaker now. He's a very dedicated hit scan player to the bones, and Grip Reaper will want to at least attempt to match it.
As we see on this defense, the Patriots are not looking to play any Sig. They're going to go with a Ram-based composition, and they're going to have Mecha on that Reaper. They will still have Viper go on this Widow, but it feels like it's going to be tough because it's not like a Sig can give you a shield. I mean, maybe if you went and placed your Ram shield up there, but it fades away after a while. The Sig shield could be there infinitely until you recall it. So very strange defensive setup from the Patriots, as Messiah is going to play on this offense more of what we expect on a map like this.
See, you say strange, Ray? I think this is genius. Cryo and Mecha just hold this corner. Nobody in Messiah can body their way past. Grip Reaper can't even get an angle right now. Jump shots, and that's it. If they somehow manage to push past Cryo and Mecha, or if they have to back up to give a little space, guess who's got you? You got Miss Viper. Ian can land a bio nade. Midnight has some longer range. I love this out of the UC Patriots. And Messiah, they're going to have a lot of trouble getting through this point unless Mecha does that. That was gutsy. Mecha has been doing some extremely cocky plays all day. That one right there might have cost you this first point defense.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the idea of long-term in these fights like this. Like, if you don't win the fights fast, the Patriots' composition is just going to struggle in the long-term fights. And it's kind of what just happened. Messiah kind of outlasted them.
That's kind of what you have to do, though. You see Patriots need to play slow, and it's points like that where you get aggressive. You see a kill, and you're like, ooh, I'm hungry. You gotta feed me. Well, you just fed the enemy team. Can't be doing that. Went back over to the Genji. Problem is, you fully regroup. Cryo's not there. This pale is rounding the final corner, and I don't think a Genji or a Widowmaker wants to contest this objective. Messiah should just be capping this point relatively for free, and you see Patriots gotta go back to the drawing board.
And this is the power of the Sigma-based composition, just allowing these hit scans to come through. Viper, however, is the one who comes through, gets a pick onto Grim Reaper, and sets the Patriots up for a pretty good defense to start off on point 2.
I guarantee you that shot went through one of those like little corner holes in the barricades. I've died to those so many times. They come up and you just completely forget that they're there. An attacker can never see it coming. Now with the sights online, you cannot poke your heads out in the slightest unless you want to lose it. This is the angle that I'm talking about. You cannot see a Widowmaker standing there. Jump shotting during sights is insane, but everyone is still on their feet. You go ahead and take it. Can't sight play the same for Cryo, who's currently a pancake on the streets of Circuit Royale. NECC Esports have been finding their entries to this objective so incredibly easily, and UC Patriots have been staggering along the way.
I mean, the Messiah's just doing a great job. The Ramatra can be, you know, very isolated, especially now that Mecha's on the Genji. So Cryo has to be very careful and very wary of the positioning where you're going to get isolated and killed very quickly.
Oh, certain points here, you gotta play the Ramatra in the right spots and need to take the right fights, and so far that hasn't been happening. UC Patriots are just hoping to win this fight off of their ultimate bank alone. Messiah, though, they have ults to match it. Stucio, very disciplined, not popping that Transcendence, allowing Little Jim to do the heavy lifting first and pull it out as a last-ditch effort, but you don't get the opportunity to. Cryo and Mecha run over the entirety of Messiah, and we'll finally have some breathing room on Circuit.
And on this defense for the Patriots, they have the opportunity to waste at least another minute off this clock with this Nano Blade. Because, I mean, if played correctly, there's nothing Transcendence can do about it. The Nano Blade's just going to slice and dice through these lower HP characters. So if they play this right, the Patriots can put themselves in a more advantageous situation. They just need to waste as much time as possible on the second point.
You gotta bank this time clock bird. The problem is playing against double sniper ray. You can see how quickly these points can turn. It's just a snap of the fingers, a blink of an eye, and your fight's just over. You lose grip, Reaper, but Cryo going down. That's much more impactful than not having a frontline. Mr. Viper can trade it out as much as they want. No tank here, not a chance of touching.
And you have both the Sigma ult and the Transcendence available. That's just going to be point number 2 cap, and you're going to have 4 minutes to try and get this third point. The Patriots, man, they feels like they always get themselves in a strong position, and then they get a little too greedy and someone gets picked off.
Again, this is the problem. Cryo gets so far up there, Ian and Midnight, they can't peek Scattered and Grip Reaper. They're snipers. They're looking for support's heads. So Cryo goes so far in thinking that he'll be supported the same way as he would in a typical Brawl composition. That's just not the case. You're very much own solo island and need to be very aware of what the rest of your team is doing. So far, that hasn't been happening. NECC Esports have another Gravitic Flux online. There's enough to get Midnight out of the picture. Cryo falls again. That's what I'm talking about. Look where Ian has to play so far back, and it just this continued staggering. 3 minutes here, and Messiah have to find a way to put their foot down.
And the staggers just come through again. Mecha's going to go down. That's only going to give more distance. I mean, Viper's now up here, and they're very aware. Oh, they're able to get away just in time. That orb from Stucio came through clutch.
Stucio. Breath of Relief, that was a bit of scary territory. You're off the Widowmaker now, Grip Reaper, comfortable on the Sojourn, sure. But the problem with the Widow, you can't really contest a Widow without a Widow itself, and you can't really even do that if there's a Nano Blade online. You're out of the LOS of the Transcendence Scatter, no chance of living through that. Mecha's still chasing on 9 HP. That takes some serious guts, I'm just saying.
I mean, even if that Transcendence is able to get around the corner, it's a Nano Blade. The one isn't going to be able to much. I mean, it's kind of what I mentioned in the previous fight. It doesn't do enough to outlast the amount of damage that's able to bring to the table. And Cryo's going to have this this Annihilation online, but now we see a complete comp swap up. Dizzy's going to go over to the Winston, and Grip Reaper goes over to the Sombra. So I don't know if you're trying to use this hack to help deal with Mecha, especially the Winston. Seems like they've decided Mecha has been the sore spot.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. This will buy you a lot of space. Only problem is, a lot easier access to the rest of your team here. You can tell UC Patriots are kind of just banking on Miss Viper to find these opening eliminations. So, Messiah identified the problem. You went Winston to fix it. However, you now have a new problem, which has been confronting this front line. You're trading it out enough and just kind of left Cryo defend for themselves. He'll pop the Annihilation eventually, but he's got no friends left. They all died a very electric-y type death, you could say, thanks to Messiah. It's enough to zone them out for now and force some sort of retreat. This has been extremely scrappy on this third objective.
Again, that Nemesis form is going to come out and, you know, force a lot of the players back. But I mean, with one shot of this Hanzo Dragons available, you can force the positioning of the Patriots to completely back up, and you can take the aggressive positions yourself with your side of the Messiah. That's what I'd be using this Dragons to do.
Yeah, they need to get some value out of it. It's a rather lackluster ultimate to begin with. Maybe try to separate Cryo again. That's how they got most of this first point, was just making sure no support could come through to the tank. And this third point, Cryo has managed to regain his footing. The Dragon Strike, there's that separation for the tank. Like I said earlier, there's just so much sustain for Ramacha right now. He can't really do anything with it. Dizzy instead launches himself towards the back line. Excellent sleep dart will keep both of the defensive supports alive. Ian playing the hero for the back line, at least for now. Grim Reaper doing a little bit of a solo mission too, while Dizzy takes care of business, but it's that separation now. Ever since Messiah swapped over, they haven't been playing together, and these 1v1 fights are exactly what the UC Patriots want to be taking. We're down to the final 12 seconds here, and Messiah have to scramble to touch.
Group Reaper is going to have this EMP, and we have players in position to be able to touch out Kansai Rush.
But Stussio does it a little bit too late. You don't want your supports to have to touch, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Cairo treats them as punching bags. EMP never made it out. Only ended up hitting one, and it's not gonna matter at the end of the day. As UC Patriots found their footing after a rather snowbally attack, and it sets that bar about midway through third point.
I mean, is that even really midway? That's basically, they were basically coming up on the final push, 78 meters.
Yeah.
It's a good spot for Messiah to have gotten that to. I mean, in both, the line's been drawn in the sand for both of these teams. No situation here. It's just clear. Messiah, can you stop them from getting that 78 meters on the third point? And for the Patriots, can you continue this aggression? You found your footing. Can you keep that up and take this home and do not allow Messiah to play upsets now?
Well, you don't really have a choice. And UC Patriots, I think the way that this series started and how fast, how extreme of a turnaround that they had between maps 1 and 2, I think that's the biggest that I've seen in my 4 years of casting. It's actually insane. You worked so hard to get to this point, took 2 maps off of a Messiah team who really started struggling with that newfound confidence, and now find yourselves with a rather difficult mark to hit. Ray, this map is incredibly defensively favored. We don't often always see that third point. So many teams can get stuck at first or second just with how favorable positioning is towards that defensive side.
And now you're in this position where, we've had this accumulation of all of these crazy situations from map 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're map number 5. The pause is just like the cherry on top. It's it just makes so much sense. All this build-up anticipation and then a pause. It's but it's kind of almost expected. For the side of the UC Patriots, I mean, they haven't elected to play, that Sigma that we talked about. Are they going to do that on this attack? Because Messiah got a lot of value at it on those first 2 points, and there's a reason why this is known for being Sigma's territory. Or are they going to look to continue to live and die by their brawls, whether it be Ramacha or Junker Queen?
I think if Cryo can play the Sigma, go for it. Miss Viper has been dominating in the Widowmaker duel. Let him keep doing it. Enable him. Enable him with the Sigma. Give him his own personal shield, and I assure you that the Patriots will be very happy campers. On the other side, though, Messiah could swap it up. I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to do a little cheeky first point hold on a brawl sort of deal, but honestly, it could go either way. UC Patriots could also decide to do the brawl again. Cryo just seems so much more comfortable on that particular Ramacha or JQ. I'm once again going to emphasize, if you are going to play this, not impossible, but you need to pick where you're fighting. You cannot take so much poke on the way in that by the time you actually get to the fight, you don't have any cooldowns or health to work with, and that's how UC Patriots lost both the first and second objectives so quickly.
And I will say this Sigma composition with the Widow Hanzo, the value in it is when we get onto the defense here and these snipers can set up on different angles, and then the Sigma can just be that supporting role, and Stussio able to give one of them, the Harmony Orb, able to throw down those Discord Orbs. The value in this poke composition is when they're able to set up and play defensively.
Yeah, just think about how much more of a challenge Cryo has to find a way to close this gap with Mecha. If these two can be on the same page, use a speed ring to get to those left stairs just behind Dizzy there's actually a chance. But you already had to burn shield just to get a peek. No one has won this Widowmaker duel yet. Did mention that Mist Viper has been stronger on it in the past. It actually is a switch in Widowmaker players. Grip Reaper is on the Hanzo and Scattered instead. Will be taking up the Widowmaker now. So even with that change, that's the battle you wanted to take. Dizzy held way too close for Omatra. You're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10. This is exactly how UC Patriots wanted to play. Messiah are giving it to him.
Yeah, in that situation when you're playing the Sigma Poke composite, you can't allow the Ramatra to close the distance on you. That's exactly what Cryo was able to do, so it was well played. But if you're Messiah, you got to be very wary of that. Now that you're re-engaging, the Patriots got to be very careful of these Widow shots. Grip Reaper goes extremely low.
Well, that was looking scary there for a second. And the Grip Reaper has 2 wonderful supports and a Widowmaker who did the same thing to Miss Viper through the little cracks in the barricade there. Exactly how Messiah can buy themselves back into this objective and play for this corner. This is the poke territory that UC Patriots need to be scared of.
And that deflect already wasted, so you're in a situation where you just got to regroup and wait to continue to push in. No team is really getting anywhere with the ultimate. We'll get sights from both teams, and maybe Stussio is able to build up to this Transcendence, but I feel like the Transcendence, you're kind of just holding it to deal with that Annihilation.
Either the Annihilation or a Dragon Blade from Mecha. Not you're really worried about that anytime soon. Mecha hasn't been able to get away with much, so Stussio pops it just as an attempt to stop this defense one more time. And it actually does. It's a full health reset for Cryo, and now can use this Annihilation, at least more on the aggressive standpoint. No healing to outmatch it. And at that time, you'd really love to have some sort of extra damage pumped in. But Stussio's ultimate is gone, and so is his objective, 420 on the clock.
Getting Mecha there, however, is going to force Cryo to have to get back, and we see that happening in real time. For Messiah Esports, they're in this situation where the aggression for Cryo is really starting to become a problem, and I don't know if you can continue to play this Sigma. I mean, it's going to work well when we get to the 3rd point, but on the 2nd point, the amount of space you can just get through, it's hard for Sigma on the 2nd point sometimes.
Yeah, you gotta be cautious with how you're maintaining your space. Eventually, the Cryo will go up and punch you. Gravitic Flux, though, from Dizzy. Pick him back up, slam him back to the ground, and he got some hero-shaped pancakes littered through the streets of Circuit. The Grip Reaper, though, actually gets the better of Miss Viper on the Ash. Of all heroes, Messiah Esports managed to find a much better position for them to stabilize.
And a good ult can heal all wounds, as Messiah now regains control of this cart. And we talk about how teams can get stuck on the 2nd point, and this position that Messiah is in right now is exactly why. This natural extreme high ground you have available is very hard to deal with. I mean, when you got Grip Reaper on the Ash and Scattered on the Widow, who could just come at you from so many different places, and it's hard to push through.
No, they can't do anything, especially as this Dragon Blade, the ultimate rotation completely off from Messiah Esports. No one could play in the orbital array either. It was way too far downtown. It's just that classic Nanoblade comp that UC Patriots, that's their win condition every single time.
I mean, you will be able to get a touch here, so you could probably force out this Annihilation from Cryo, which would be big even if you end up giving up the point.
Yeah, you could just get the ults out. You're Messiah going into this. You want to give it your best shot, sure, but at the end of the day, you know that you're eventually going to have to fall. And Messiah find themselves fighting in the casino, the hotel, the last part of Circuit Royale. UC Patriots have a nasty time bank to deal with. Almost 4 minutes here. They have to find a way to set up, and they think it's going to be the switch over to Ramatra that will do it.
Yeah, you say that, but 4 minutes is what Messiah had to push this final point. It is very hard to complete Circuit Royale. Just this final point is very defensive favored. I mean, I do like to swap over to Ramatra. As I mentioned, the Sigma just wasn't coming through anymore. The question is, Mecha's going to, in order to get them team this victory, they got to get on top of these snipers.
No, I mean, especially Grip Reaper has been very quiet so far. Think of how explosive he was back on Suravasa. Absolutely silenced right now. It's Stussio in the kill feed off the back of his own Kitsune rush. Chucking kunai left, right, and center. Nice stabilization from Messiah Esports.
Just under 3 minutes left on the clock to decide who is going to get the big time victory in week number 1 in this Division 4 matchup. Bob is available for Grip Reaper as the Patriots still trying to build up to these ultimates. We know the Patriots' game plan. Their plan has always been to win the fight with Nanoblade.
If Missed Reaper to psych first, but Stucio has been popping off on this 3rd point. If you didn't trade that out, we'd be seeing a much different result. Grim Reaper chucks the Bob into the back line just for a little bit of assurance. You see Patriots, they got exactly the opening that they wanted. Messiah, though, kicked it into high gear and got recovered.
I say the one good thing the Patriots have is if they can build up to this Nanoblade, and they should have it, maybe not in this next fight, but definitely the fight after. They got the cart close enough in this current position right now where if they win the fight decisively,
There it is again.
they should be able to get this cart delivered.
All right, second time's the charm, right? That's a saying somewhere, surely. Miss Viper, first pick, it will be scattered sights out, though. You gotta respect those to some degree, knowing where they are standing. Little Jim. It's the Orbital Hooray. Midnight to answer back here momentarily. The Annihilation, though. That's what's really going to set it over the edge. Dizzy with the later response. Isn't going to be enough time, though. Someone has to get to the payload. The trades are left, right. But it's Messiah Esports who are losing numbers faster. Their spawns are closer. If they can stabilize long enough, there's a chance. But not today. It will be the UC Patriots coming back. And they'll take the win in Map 5 for Week 1 of their NECC season.
Yeah, I mean, the Nano was coming through big for this team, whether it was on the Genji for Mecha, but in that last fight, it was on the Annihilation for Cryo. It sealed the deal there. The team was playing around that win condition of giving someone a Nano and letting them go off, and they played to it. It didn't matter how much time they wasted. If they come through and deliver the point, and then they're able to play well enough defensively to not allow the team to cap fully, then you're going to win a lot of those times, and they showed that today.
UC Patriots had quite the story. You start off with a very rough point. You get to a total 10% across Busan. Then they come back here, and Mecha steps it up. On this Genji, the Nanoblades were working. The basic just, I'm going to play Genji, is working. UC Patriots needed a hero, and they turned to Mecha when all looked dark. That snowball continued. Their macro gameplay continued to grow. And of course, Mecha stood on top as that leading figure for this team. You want to put all of your resources into one player, have it be a Genji that you know can pop off. Messiah Esports showed us some sign of lights thanks to Grip Reaper, a flexible player that finally hit their mark on the Sojourn selection. It just wasn't enough to force them through once we actually got to that map 5.
I just feel when the clutch moments came out, the UC Patriots always had a great game plan and were able to execute it to its fullest, and that was the major difference when it came down to it. And I mean, once again, just congratulations to UC Patriots, and I think both teams are going to have a pretty good future in this Division 4, and what a way to open up week number 1 of NECC Overwatch.
A great performance to set up the stage for our NECC Overwatch season. It might be Division 4, Ray, but it was such an entertaining match, and I'm very excited for the direction that both of these schools are going to be headed into the future. Multiple weeks of competition still to remain, and they're going to continue to fight on upwards. A Map 5 banger between close seeds nonetheless, and I really hope that our next series can live up to this amount of hype.
We have to keep in mind that, collegiate esports is a long-term season, essentially. I mean, yes, there will be championships in the fall, but it's an accumulation of how it goes in the fall, in the spring, to see what's going to happen for the qualifications of the ultimate playoffs at the end of the year. So, great start for both teams. Unfortunately for Messiah, they weren't able to get it, but there is still plenty of time in the season to make some changes, make some adjustments, and come back strong.
That there is, where we got to have a week 1 somewhere. This is a great starting point for both teams, and we're very excited to see what progress that they can show us as the season progresses. While that might conclude our Division 4 action for today, we're going to shoot our way up to Division 1, some of our best of the best. For game number 2, ISU Redbirds Academy will be taking on a new challenger in Briarcliff University. Big games yet to come, so I'll see you back here in a couple minutes.
Oh, what an awesome day for a pump, dude.
Yeah, I gotta take it easy. Doc says if I exert myself, I will die.
You overexert yourself, you will die.
I'll tell you what, you finish the workout, all these could be yours. That looks good. A little bit of honey ham for the ham. Get after it, and that's your get after it, and that's your treat. Hey, do the exercise, do the work, then you get the reward. That's how this works, man. You gotta give it max effort, maximum effort. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Big hams. Make it work, those hams. Work 'em. Putting in the work. Yeah, baby. Yes. Dude, this is a spicy workout. Gotta make it worth it. Building the beef and bringing home the bacon, baby. I'm loving it. Teriyaki is just about within your reach. Come on, get you some. Come on. Ooh, ooh. Maximum effort. Maximum effort. You're there. You're almost there.
That's so worth it.
Map banger to open up our NECC Overwatch fall season. Now, Ray, can we follow that up with another one? We are headed to Division 1 Overwatch, the best of the best within NECC competition. We have Briarcliff, a new competitor, a new face who has recently bolstered their roster to compete at the top, and an ISU Academy team competing alongside their sister team in the ISU Redbirds for this top slot in the same division, truly living up to that hype. I think this is the recipe for a great match.
Yeah, we know the cachet that ISU is going to bring, whether it's their main team or their academy team. Briarcliff has been an up-and-coming riser in all the divisions. They have now gotten their way all the way up to Division 1, and now they have a chance to make a statement against the Redbirds Academy team. Question is, are they going to be able to do that? I mean, I don't know if we can pull up the roster at this moment, but it looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll have to go ahead and we'll take a peek at those rosters in a little bit. But for now, we can theorize what's going to happen. I mean, isn't really theorizing. We can see directly into the lobby because we have vision into the future, and we know who can see. But to be totally honest with you, Briarcliff, they brought in a couple players from top Kolingo Heroes teams. That's a realm that I'm incredibly familiar with. A lot of them have competed in OWCS, the professional Overwatch league right now, have qualified to group stage, and even some of them into that playoff bracket into Swiss. AJMR being one of those players on this team, and it is insane to have them on this roster bolstering up this flex support role alongside their same coach, Aspen, who is listed as a player, but I believe is currently on the bench and assumably coaching for this team. So it's very cool that they've all managed to stay together, ended up at the same school, and will continue to be playing as such against an ISU Academy team, which you gotta say, Ray, they have a big name to live up to.
That they do, but I've had a chance to cast. I mean, we kind of talked about beforehand this ISU Academy team. A lot of it is brand new. There's only one tenure, I guess you want to say. One remaining player from the previous season, which I believe was Vintage. So, I mean, again, we know the culture that Redbirds has. They're going to be scrimming a lot. They have their scrim blocks. The structure is there. Just has there been enough time to bring all these players together and have them working perfectly cohesively together?
The Redbirds esports culture is one that breeds champions. We saw that with ISU's main roster, literally winning every single collegiate championship available just a semester ago. This is a newly formed team, and with some brand new names on it, others have been around for a little while. Vintage, for example, has competed in OWCS. A lot of experience on Shikigami, a very well-known name within the Overwatch Tier 2 community, and funnily enough, has also been coached by Aspen, who also is coaching Briarcliff as of now. Fun little connections, really a small world that we do live in, but the rest of the squad is rather new. They've been playing together for some time. They've played over the summer in some We Are So Back tournaments for Face It, and just wherever around. It's not like they're inexperienced in the least, Ray. This is just a new type of competition at the collegiate level, and teams have to learn to adapt to it in the exact same way they would any other.
I mean, Redbirds, the academy team, they were one of the main competitors in Division 2 last season, I believe. I don't think they won it all. I want to say maybe they did. They were either semifinals or they were runner-ups, or they won it all. They were basically one of those top teams in Division 2, but they're stepping up to a whole nother level in Division 1. I mean, depending on how well they do in their group, they could be facing their sister team in the playoffs, and that team is absolutely no joke, as you mentioned, winning all 3 last season, and they almost kept their entire group together. The only difference was so they replaced Skyle with Luke Mino, and I mean, you'll take that.
Yeah, any day of the week for sure. I mean, like we talk about it. That's a big name to live up to. We know what this program can do and how well that they support their players towards achieving success. You gotta imagine though that name carries some weight, and it's gonna be weight on the backs of the players. It's a new adjustment that you're gonna have to do. You're in the same division as your sister team, your A team, quote unquote. I've never seen that happen at the high levels, as high of a level as Division 1 composition is. So we're gonna have to we'll have to see where that actually goes. Where is Redbird Academy on that chopping block? No longer in that Division 2. They want to show that they can beat the best of the best. And I think Briarcliff is going to be a great showcase of that. Also a newer squad who's kind of learning the ropes of how to compete at this level.
I don't know if we have that map pick available in the map selection, but we do know what the first map is going to be. I mean, we know it's Control, and what ended up happening was this time Busan was banned, and we get Nepal for map number 1.
Hey, I'm here for it. We like variety, right? Ensure that we don't get the same map 2 times in a row. That's pretty great. Still no Lijiang. I think that's shocking. Nepal is a very, for the most part, brawl/dive focused map. Now that we're playing in Division 1, I'm expecting to see a lot more of this traditional meta with that Ramatra, that Juno, that Brig, the Ana, a lot of that stuff coming our way shortly. It does seem like that we are working on a bit of an issue with the rosters right now, just confirming which players will be starting. So we're waiting a little bit on that, which is why you're hearing us yap a lot more than usual. But hey, we like to get excited about collegiate esports. We just want to make sure that you two, we're all on the same page and we can be excited for this together.
We are gonna have to find out what is going to happen with the situation. But when it comes to Nepal, we can break down this map a little bit. We do know that when it comes to Village and when it comes to Sanctuary, that you're going to be looking at hardcore brawl type compositions. The one that can flip-flop sometimes is Sanctum. Sometimes you can get Sigs there. Sometimes the DPS can swap up quite a bit. Sometimes you get Lucio's there because, boops into the chasm are always funny times. But I don't know. Chasm is always just the chaotic map, and I'm always for chaos.
Yeah, we like to call Sanctum the forgotten middle child of the Busan not Busan. Why do I keep saying Busan? Busan's like in my head. The Nepal map, Village, pretty self-explanatory. You play on an objective. You go ahead and punch each other on it. Pretty chill. Shrine leads more in a brawl, in a dive sort of direction, but could be a brawl too. Sanctum, I don't think many teams know what the heck you do on that. There's so many different ideas that just kind of get pushed into one like scrappy ball, and you just hope one kind of works out. It's what Nepal feels like sometimes. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes some strats just work on one day and they don't on the other. I do think we are going to see less swaps than we did in our previous series, though. Ray, I think we're going to get more focused in onto this either Diva sort of dive in and out sort of deal, or this Ramatra. We're sticking to this brawl. We're going to see a lot of May coming forwards probably from both of these teams.
I agree. I mean, the higher up you get to the top is where you're not going to see a bunch of swaps. It's going to be more like adjustments within the composition itself to try and deal with the other team. Like, let's try and rotate this way instead, or maybe we have you hang back a little bit instead, or you go out with the Diva this time, or, etc. We're not going to see a whole bunch of flip-flopping here, most likely. It's going to be about those teams just making those macro changes to those meta compositions to succeed.
It's less on the actual hero compositions of themselves and more on that actual play style, which of course, as you said, becomes more of an apparent thing once you hit the highest levels of gameplay. Most of these players should be in like GM, Grandmasters, Champ, or top 500 even this season. Like, this is the top. The one thing that I really love about North American Overwatch is collegiate and the pro scene are so connected. You don't see this a lot in just generally in esports as a whole. With Overwatch in particular, these players are everywhere. They're competing at the best. And good news for us, Ray, we can actually see who those players are now. Rosters are up and ready. The starting lineups are now in, and this is what we're looking at.
Yeah, so for the Redbirds Academy, we got Vintage, Arise, Destiny, Dr. Death, and Chombo. And for Briarcliff, Juven, Jodello, Spooky Spanish, Benji, and AGMR. And I'm a big fan of the Spooky Spanish name.
Yeah, Spooky Spanish, it's very fun. It's alliteration, we like it. It's very cool. It's almost Halloween sort of season 2. Cannot believe it's almost October. It'll be extra spooky around that time of year. I said before, though, biggest names that are familiar on this team, Vintage, having a lot of past experience on Shikigami, likely going to be a leader for this team, along with a JMR, played on Valentine, played on Bubble Blowers, has won Calling All Heroes tournaments, and overall is an incredible flex support player. I've seen them show up time and time again. This should be no difference. These are the teams that we're going to be looking at today. Adaptability is less of the question. It's more of their ability to work together as a team, how to synergize. Because a lot of what we see with these Juno compositions, Ray, it's all about these pieces moving together like clockwork.
And then, you know, whether you're playing the Brig or the Ana, if you're playing that Brig, being able to play that protection role to try and not allow, you know, say a Diva to dive on top of your Juno who can be extremely fragile. And then, again, it's using that Hypersphere ring of speed to your advantage, you know, if you're on a Ramatra-style composition to be able to make that work. And then, as you mentioned, it's all, I mean, in brawls, that's just the main thing, is you have to move as a unit. If you don't, that brawl is going to collapse immediately.
Mm-hmm. And these are the players that will punish you. If you show mistakes when teams are on an even level of footing, there are team compositions, especially these ones, that will vie particularly on if somebody overextends, uses a major cooldown too early. It's those small windows that are identified once you get to this point in gameplay, and that's really what we're going to be looking out for. Mirrored compositions will likely be the story of our day. It's the intricacies of how they're played that will determine the differential between these teams. Finally, we've headed into Nepal, and it'll be Shrine to kick us off.
Taking a look for both of these teams, I'm not going to comment on that Doomfist because I don't believe it.
I thought you were looking at the other side.
Yeah, I mean,
surely not, right?
I went right to left. Okay, so I was like, okay, let's start with the right. And
did you read left to wait? Huh?
It's just Overwatch. My eyes went to the right. I'm right-handed. Okay.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Unfortunately for you, I don't know if these are baits, Ray. We are going to have an Orisa against a Doomfist matchup. This was not on my bingo card today.
I was going to say, I'm checking my bingo card right now, and I do not see that on here, and I should have put it on there. It's interesting. But Orisa has been getting small little micro buffs each of these last few patches. So, I mean, not meta, obviously, right now, but I feel like, you know, it could be very shortly as Benji's already down.
And it's so much better into a Doomfist, too. Spooky Spanish really won't be able to use that block much at all. Redbird Academy rolled out with that favorable composition, as you've seen before. Vintage very married to this hit scan.
Yeah, that's the big question is, was scouting done in this situation? Do they know that Briarcliff love to play this Doomfist in this situation of show? You know, coming out with the set composition on the Orisa is actually very smart because Orisa's, you know, a great counter to that Doomfist play. But for Briarcliff to really take advantage of this composition, again, it's like a dive once again. Jodello, Juven, and Spooky Spanish all got to be on the same page on that same target.
You have to find a way to collapse in a way, but like, look at these javelins. That's exactly what Destiny wants to do, disrupt. Unfortunately, you did just deliver Spooky Spanish first class over to Vintage, so really that worked out in more of Briarcliff's favor at the end of the day. Destiny tried to make a play, the rest of the supports was hanging on by a thread, and overall, it's a nice collapse out of Briarcliff. We'll get them on the point.
And that's where you want to get if you're the side of Briar. You want to separate and isolate the members of the ISU Academy team and not allow them to be all clumped up together and just cause a bunch of chaos where they have to look above for the Echo, they have to look behind for the Tracer. In front of them, there's a Doomfist, and then you're just destroyed them by the time they even have a chance to regain their footing.
Oh, Pulse Bomb is out. That one won't hit, helping the Orbital Rays have a little bit more of an impact. Brawl taking place in a small room, narrowly dodging out of the way of the Pulse Bomb. Instead, it was Benji's rally that gets canceled. Illinois State, if you can play it up close and personal, that's exactly where you want to be, is a big old battering ram. Over the Meteor Strike out of Spooky Spanish. Wants to make sure the tank can't get out alive, but instead he used the Terror Surge, regaining some of that extra health, combo it up with Chombo's Rally. And Illinois State have seemed to regain some of this control on the objective. They're going to have no problem tapping in and out. Spooky Spanish doesn't have that type of sustain.
Yeah, and being able to get the point flip pretty early before the fight was over was big for the Redbirds. Because now they're in a situation where this could be final fight for Briarcliff as Bobby was under the point.
The Bob out first. And that doesn't work out too much. I mean, Vintage really just forces back most of Briarcliff. They're trying not to stagger. Spooky Spanish snags the Mega Health Pack just in time, regrouping with the Brig. Destiny is so aggressive right now. He's trying to deny Briarcliff any possible space, and that's exactly what you need to be doing as an Orisa. Problem is, you didn't mark the Tracer. You don't have somebody to mark the Tracer. You lose out on one support, and Illinois State are going to be living on a very thin thread. If you did not get that pick onto Spooky Spanish, you have to be fearing for the future progress of this team. Arise, though, so short of the health pack. So close, yet so far. And it's Illinois State, while they're at 99%, they're still down in numbers. It's a 4v3, and Briarcliff are just going to be allowed to have the point while the Redbirds go for a regroup.
The Redbirds doing the right thing, getting out and looking to regroup. Briarcliff, they should be able to build up to these support ultimates in time for this next fight. But the Redbirds, with this Terra Surge, might be able to make something happen, and they'll have the Orbital Surge of their own, and Arise is dead. Never mind.
Yeah, Arise lost out on that Tracer duel. Very important when it comes to map control. When Jodella and Spooky Spanish are kind of banking on moving around this map quickly, Arise has to at least maintain the space and stay alive for ISU's sake.
It's all going to come down to one final fight, so we got a lot coming up from Briarcliff. You'd say they're definitely going to have the advantage. They'll get their Doomfist, their Echo, and their support ults. While Redbirds are hoping to make a lot out of that Orbital Ray and Terra Surge combination. Maybe if this fight goes on long enough, you get Rally and Bob.
Oh, but they fight in that small room again. You have Rally, Orbital Ray. That's just a recipe for success of the Briarcliff Chargers. The Redbird Academy squad stood no chance in a close quarters battle such as that. They wanted to use the Alt Ray. They just never had the chance to do it.
Now, the aggression coming up from Briarcliff was absolutely everything. I mean, you're going to have a last-second touch as the recall is going to come in from Arise, but you still have 3 ults in the bank to be able to use here as the Venture Duke comes out.
Yeah, a recent swap out of Vintage, an attempt to sustain on this objective longer, but it's more so going to work out for Briarcliff's favor. That's a tectonic shock online, and if you have nothing to do but stand in front of it, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Illinois State down to they're beaten into a pulp. Briarcliff Chargers make a comeback on a composition, mind you, Ray, that should have been countered out. That they found their will and found a way to make it work, playing off of Spooky Spanish's aggression. Wonderful showcase of map control and a very close round 1.
I think what that came down to was that composition that you're seeing out of Briarcliff. It has in struggles to try and take back the point once it's been lost. I mean, we saw that with the aggression that Destiny was playing with. But Dr. Death, I don't know if they were up there with Destiny and got too aggressive, but they got found out in the open, and because of that, the Briarcliff was able to retake. And once they're in position and able to coordinate these dives and get aggressive into your rotations, that's when you're in trouble if you're the Redbirds, and they fell to that trap.
And that was good. That's why Destiny wanted to play so far up. We saw him basically in the spawns at point because Redbird's Academy wanted to ensure that there was no setup to begin with. We'll have to see how they react to a new composition. Well, the Redbird's Academy didn't make any change. Instead, the Chargers that will move to a Venture May Ramatra. They want to brawl head on here, and I can tell Destiny is already not having a great time. Has to back off after the May wall was shoved behind him. Juven is straight into the back line as well. Destiny is cut off. They're trying to keep their tank alive for as long as possible. Hope Arise can trade it out. It actually ends up getting both supports off the back of it. Massive plays out of Arise, struggling to keep up with Judello previously. This is what we need to see out of the Tracer.
Arise came through big on the off angle because as far as Juven was backing up so far into that hallway on the outside of the map, it allowed Arise to come around the corner and get just free fire as they were trying to take out the Orisa, and they were able to get the trades in, and it worked out very well. Juven gonna go over to the Cassidy now, which I mean, with that new flashbang available is a very good counter to the Tracer.
As a Tracer main, I can tell you that thing hurts. Gotta stay well away from Juven until that cooldown is out of sight. Will at least deter, at least should deter Rise from the backline for now. Like, look at this. Juven is chasing. Use the hyper ring speed to attempt to catch up to the Tracer. And Rise is still low on HP, well out of the equation. Briarcliff could just go ahead and stick true to their name. Charge at Illinois State Academy. But they're taking their time, rotating instead through the spawns, separating Destiny from their team. It's a great Maywall nonetheless, but Arise is back. He already found the backline in Benji. You gotta pop the orbital ray, but the speed is too much. Illinois State, we're playing a big old game, a ring around the rosy. They don't want to take the fight to the front. No, no, no. They'll wait to plant their feet with a ray at their backs and Destiny to slice them up.
That was a great Maywall, but an even better pulse bomb from Arise to flip that fight on its head immediately. And then they had the wherewithal to get that Maywall broken as quickly as possible. I mean, Briarcliff still has this Blizzard advantage. The big issue is there's a lot of mobility with this composition that ISU is playing. And then if Destiny gets caught, you can just pop the Fortify and get out of there.
Now, Judello's still going to try to use it early. He already got Vintage out of the way, too, so if Briarcliff is going to win a fight here on Sanctum, now is the time to do it, even if the Blizzard didn't get all that much. They protected on the point. No one from Redbird Academy can get there. It seems like they're very split as of now, and Briarcliff are they're chasing down Rise.
I think that's not a smart decision. You're just going to allow ISU to be able to take space, and look at this, they're already attempting to do that.
Yeah, look how far ahead that ISU are. They shouldn't be allowed on this middle section. They are now on the AJMR swapped over to their signature Baptiste. That's a massive Terror Surge, though. You have no mortality field to last this out. The health bars are struggling. Doesn't take much to push them through. The point has been flipped back over, though. Rise is in the back line, and that will be the point uncaptured. Briarcliff really struggled to get a grasp on how to play this brawl composition. Rise really threw them for a loop.
Just it completely being a distraction. A lot of the time, he was just drawing their attention away and allowing the rest of his team to just take space with this Orisa composition. And that's what you need, is to be able to brawl and, you know, take that space, get in their face. And it was just a big mistake for Briarcliff to fall bait to that. And they're going to have to make those subsequent changes heading into Village for our final map to decide who takes map number 1.
When Briarcliff, you're going to play that type of brawl composition, you gotta be on the same page. You can't let a single player take away attention from that. They decided, you know what, Ramatra, not for us. Let's go back to this Doomfist, that Echo that worked out so well at the start. Benji will be on a Lucio. That actually did stick. So you got like the ultra... Yeah, and a Pharah too. You have like the ultra version of speed. Now you just gotta hope that Judello can take out the Pharah. Not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem at all. That was just an annihilation coming out on the field for Briarcliff. I mean, they seem to be extremely comfortable on this Doomfist, but they just know on a map like Sanctum that this one's not going to really work that well, especially with all of the open space. I mean, not even open space, just ability to fall off the map in just very short hallways to work with. Very long hallways, I mean.
You can make it work. I'm more concerned about Vintage being on this hit scan. You have enough space for now. Briarcliff aren't really going to hang out on the high ground anyways. They're more willing to kind of jump in, jump out since you have the point control for now. Vintage has to find a pick, and that's the problem with giving up the high ground. You just give free reign to this Ashe. AJMR is down. That's the majority of your healing along with it. Darkcliff want to stabilize towards the back of this point. Just can't walk face first into an Orisa. You will lose that battle 9 times out of 10. Spanish still did give it a try, along with Juven. Even their coordination, though, isn't enough to outlast that damage for the missing of their Kiriko.
A nice 35% gain for Briarcliff. No teams use any ults. I mean, all things considered, not the worst case, but a stagger here would be even worse. Ori's forced to recall and get out of there, so be able to avoid the worst case situation for Briarcliff. Arai is going to have this pulse bomb online. However, Benji has this sound barrier and could have it on ready for any of these incoming ults that ISU is going to look to use. But Briarcliff has been more the aggressive ones to use the ult so far.
And they're going to have to do so again, given the positioning. You want to force point, make as much of ISU Academy drop as possible. That's where you force mistakes. AJMR gets a kunai to Vintage's dome. Debel completely has control of this high ground. ISU Academy finding some sort of stabilization on the point, but that sound barrier perfectly timed out of Benji, ensuring that Briarcliff will not get overwhelmed. But once again, look who it is. It's Arise showing up, followed with a stick on the pulse bomb. Even if it doesn't result in a kill, Briarcliff are running for the hills, and they even use the Kitsune rush there. Ray, you're gonna want that one back.
Of course, you're going to want that back. It's very unfortunate. AJMR trying to make a hero play, trying to save Spooky Spanish was not enough. And now you're going to have to deal with a Bob while you're rotating, as well as a possible Terra Surge. Jodello could make a big play if you get the right dupe target and you take advantage of getting an ultimate online. I mean, you get your pick of who you want to go for.
Yeah, but how much is that going to matter? We're nearing final fight territory. You have so much of an advantage. You need someone to show up, and it's AGMR. Final blow onto Vintage for the second fight in a row now. Vintage can pop off, but it's also a liability for this team with lack of mobility. Ashe currently possesses. With the dupe onto the Ashe at the end, you're fighting a dupe versus a small room. Don't exactly want to be in that situation. Briarcliff are going to win it out, which is 2 of their own dupes.
And they get it at 85%, so even if Redbirds are able to come back and flip this, there's an opportunity for Briarcliff to, maybe get their Tracer out of there, have them hide and be able to retouch. So that's actually a pretty decent percentage to be able to get. ISU, however, is going to have the ult advantage. Juven's going to have to make some magic with the Pulse Bomb because you're going to be coming into almost a 5 stack from the Redbirds.
Yeah, Redbirds almost, it seems like intentionally lost that fight. They didn't want to pump any of their resources into it. It was just more, how much can we squeeze out of Briarcliff? Judell had a sliver of HP, managed to get away, but it does take Juven's Pulse Bomb to act as a distraction to do so. Redbird Academy moving closer to this objective now. Want to get as many players off the high ground as possible before they move towards the point, or you can just have Bob plus Arise do that for you. With the point now flipped, it's Briarcliff instead. They have to find the touch. AJMR stuck with the Pulse Bomb so many ways to get away from that one though. Under pressure, has to use the tools to get away. The Kitsune Rush reduced the cooldown just enough for the Skiriko to live and for Spooky Spanish to find one pick, but it's not enough. The support ult of Dr. Death and Chombo simply too much for Briarcliff to handle, and on the Illinois State Redbird Academy taking away map number 1.
Very impressive, especially, playing, not necessarily what we would call meta for either of these teams, but the Orisa for sure. I mean, I've seen Doomfist get forced and worked in some certain scenarios, but I haven't seen a lot of Orisa. So being able to make that work, I mean, really they're just playing similar to what you would with the Ramatra, but they're kind of playing with an Orisa instead, and it's working out well for them. I mean, this map on Sanctuary, it really came down to that big mistake in that fight where they allowed their Juno to go down very early and they weren't able to recuperate and, get back in. But all these considered, Redbird's looking pretty strong so far, showing out, the cachet that this college brings.
Yeah, well coordinated, and even if the Orisa is a bit unconventional, they seem to know how to play around each other very well. You're setting up your supports properly, along with Vintage, making sure that they can live. Rise is rarely getting over-aggressive on a Tracer. You're either holding an angle or you're beating out Juven when it comes to just kind of playing. You're setting up these pinches with Destiny. Destiny's supported properly because the supports are in position. Like, Everything from ISU Academy just looks great. Despite that they have lost, they've been out-mechanicked. Somebody has popped off or done something to disrupt a lot of that setup that they've been requiring. Spooky Spanish, Jodello, and Juven have been very good about that so far. AJ Mar really popped off there at the end too. We did also miss an Ajax that happened. If Benji had gotten that sound barrier off though, Spooky Spanish, Juven, all of them would have lived. And we may have seen a very different result. At the end of the day, Ray, there's a very thin gap between these two teams.
And it's just great to see in Division 1 like this. That's been the one problem we've seen in Division 1. You know, it might still exist where you get like Redbirds and Northwood and Maryville, or, you know, some of the top tier schools, Winthrop. And then like you get a huge drop off. But at least with these schools who kind of probably fall into that drop off, we're seeing great competition between them.
There's still definitely a tier break between certain schools, but you get to have an academy roster nonetheless. Bring it face to face with Briarcliff, who a lot of the preseason power ranks put Briarcliff within that top 20 sort of standpoint here. Great look from ISU so far. Briarcliff definitely have an unconventional strategy, and not to mention an Orisa. I don't know if this was practiced. Did Destiny come in planning to play a Battle Cattle with it specifically because Spooky is known for the Doomfist? Like, that's the question that I really want to know. How much did the Redbird Academy prepare for this match ahead of time, that they were aware of it? They did compete in the, the Corn Belts Clash in Iowa earlier. Both of these teams were there, and I have a feeling, Ray, that this was scouted out ahead of time. Briarcliff, their strategy was known, and you put Destiny on that Orisa, you have him grind it out, and this is the type of result you can get.
As we do have that second map incoming, as Hybrid was picked, and we're going to Blizzard World, baby. So another map where for the side of Briarcliff, if they want to continue to play this Doomfist, it's going to be a map that allows them to do that. It's a great playground, I guess you would say, for Doomfist. Definitely Winston and, you know, D.Va might be favored a little bit more, but Doomfist still has the ability to be strong on this map in certain compositions.
It's a map that's been rising in popularity. Kings Row plays more towards, like, you can do pretty much anything on that. Blizzard World is much more open, and dive is required on certain points of the map, but it still can be a little bit more flexible. I don't think either team necessarily wants to change their compositions, particularly when I see Briarcliff keep Spooky Spanish on the Doomfist. As much as I don't like to categorize players, when you have Doomfist players that are as good as Spooky Spanish, more often than not, they really only play Doomfist, and it's something you really gotta lean into in order to succeed here. So Spooky Spanish is in. That tells us you're likely gonna want to stick onto that. Could totally prove us wrong based on what happens. Destiny will be sticking onto that Orisa just in case.
I mean, it kind of feels like, you know, when Dante first swapped over to tank for the Houston Outlaws, where it's like, he's a great Doom, just lean into it, baby.
Yep.
So, I was going to say we did see Spooky Spanish highlighting that D.Va for a second, but they have now gone back over to the Doomfist. And I mean, given that Illinois, no matter what circumstance, they are going to play this Orisa, kind of foreshadows the fact that they expect Doomfist in every possible situation for this team. The question is, are they going to be able to, for Briarcliff, overcome, you know, Redbirds kind of knowing what they want to play and, you know, building a plan around that?
Yeah, and Redbirds clearly know what they want to do. The Academy roster has a plan through and through. Briarcliff Chargers just have to, they don't really have a choice. You practice one composition, likely. You got to stick with it. If it doesn't work, well, we have other problems to worry about. So Spooky Spanish will stick to his guns, at least for now. This first point is good. Jodello and Juven almost ensure that you are never going to get a hold or any sort of poke damage done on that first little high ground. You have to play on the objective for Redbird Academy and try to isolate these players. Just deny them from getting to their backline. Juven will be kept in check by Arise. It's this Echo that you're more concerned about. If you can synergize with Spooky Spanish and manage to collapse on Vintage, This is the exact sort of strategy you want. Jadella did tank a couple of shots out of Vintage, though, and at that point, all the healing resources had to be redirected, signaling the end of Spooky Smash.
Again, this is going to be where it's tough because there's very limited directions you can come from if you're Spooky Spanish. As long as Illinois is scouting and playing correctly, you're going to get a javelin straight to your face, and the follow-up from the Redbirds has just been incredible. It is going to be a tough cookie to break for Briarcliff.
Yeah, like, you can tell they're just, like, sniffing out every possible angle you can have to go in on, like, these squishy characters. You just can't find it, and that's Arise again, beating Juven out in these one-on-ones. Arise has set themselves clear ahead as the better Tracer does actually get punished. A little bit overzealous, perhaps. And that's the window of opportunity that Briarcliff want. They're okay with playing downright scrappy. A good coached gun that to help the Redbird Academy back out a little bit more. They'll have a support ultimate plus some to re-engage with momentarily. For now, though, wait out the orbital ray, give up a tick or two, then you can come roaring back.
Because you can re-engage with an orbital ray of your own. You'll basically have 5 ults to re-engage with. They're going to get the touch just in time orbital ray on the point.
And if they manage to snag it, that's a pulse bomb, though, in a Spooky Spanish. All those tools, Illinois State Academy's discipline will come out, and these kind of things that just show you the difference between a strong group of individuals and a strong team. The mentality, the shot calling is all there for Redbird Academy. Vintage cleaning up the last couple, and just like that, Ray, we're well over halfway through this point.
And they're able to get that with only 2 ultimates. That's the key for the Redbirds, because Briarcliff, with that long engaged fight, they only use 2 ultimates of their own. So you're going to take that. For the Redbirds, however, I mean, having control of this high ground for Vintage has been absolutely key. So if I'm Juven, I feel like that is like checklist number 1 on my list of things I need to do is get around and force Vintage off this high ground.
That's what they're gonna do. It takes an ultimate to do it, though. We're at a pulse bomb. My goodness, Vintage just got double ulted there. A personal vendetta against the Redbird Academy Ash player. Duke managed to grab Destiny on top of it too. Briarcliff should be smoother sailing from here on out. It's just those last pesky characters that shouldn't have a room to re-engage. No tank to bust their way through. Arise will still give it an attempt. Had some overhealth left over, and this team is fighting, hoping to buy time for Destiny to get back into the fight. Unfortunately, it just don't have enough sustain or health bars to be on the objective long enough, and the Chargers will snag point A.
You did waste a lot of time for ISU, where they're only going to have 3 minutes to push the second point. And this is where the crux of the issue comes on a map like Blizzard World, Tiny, is this second point is extremely potent. This is where teams tend to start getting held up.
Just look at where this high ground is. There's so few ways to get up there. The Tracer Doom Echo is your best shot for sure, but between like getting javelin, coach gun, dynamited along the way, the rotations are what Illinois State Academy, that's what they're punishing.
They will be able to re-engage with this AJMR orbital ray coming in, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
And they're going to put it up, but there's no Redbird Academy players in sight, so it doesn't really get that much value. Spooky Spanish is in there. His abilities to get out and at least stabilize. The one ult, it didn't result in any eliminations, but at least by space on the objective. They're once again trying to chase down Arise. I'm not a huge fan of that play. You just gotta try to support your front because you take that attention away, and look what happened to Spooky Spanish and Benji.
Yeah, Arise is literally just playing like, I don't know, hide and seek, I guess. Like, oh, come find me.
Yeah.
And they're just not able to find him. And in the meantime, their team is dead. Yeah, they finally found him, but it's already over. They traded out Tracers anyway.
No.
So,
Arise is doing exactly what he wants. He's just drawing attention.
Exactly. Yeah. ISU is just able to maintain full control of this high ground. That is the issue Briarcliff is facing. You have to get Vintage and these supports away from this high ground.
Well, with the bomb and the duplicate to potentially do it, Judello fortunately doesn't last in the brig form for long. It'll be a Terra Surge down onto 2. What if a play out of Destiny? Yoink and Briarcliff right back into the line of damage. We're down to just a minute now. Briarcliff absolutely cannot stagger here.
Tick, tick, tick for Briarcliff. Juven has the pulse bomb available. They have tools to re-engage with if you're Briarcliff, because Redbirds threw a lot out of that chamber. They're still trying to regain their ult. ultimates here, Chumbo might get this rally, but Briarcliff has a window of opportunity to cleanly win this fight quickly before Redbirds get these ults up.
You're just gonna need a clean pulse bomb stick. And I gotta say, Chumbo looking like a mighty good target. Sadly, that pulse bomb shall not land for Briarcliff, so the easy route is out of the picture. Now you gotta win this the hard way in the neutral, and with an Arise, he'll have a pulse bomb of his own to answer back. Rally from Benji, fortifying Briarcliff's defenses even further. With 11 seconds, you gotta eventually confront the threat on the front lines, but there's the pulse bomb at 600 Judello. Benji's shield is gone too. Very vulnerable backline right now. Spooky Spanish doing his darndest in the front to at least deter the rest of the Redbird Academies from supporting Destiny, and it seems to have done enough. Dr. Death is down. Chombo can only chuck so many armor packs, and Briarcliff's very strange strategy of dividing and conquering finally managed to work, and they'll have 90 seconds to take a swing at point C.
It's a little surprising to see that work, especially with the Doomfist, where it kind of relies on everyone being together. But I mean, with the Echo in play, because the Echo can just get pickoffs easily with that focusing beam, it technically works there. And now Briarcliff knows his Doomfist is going to be a problem on this point. They initially were Ram and decided to match the Orisa instead, but who knows? That could be exactly what ISU is wanting. They're the ones who've been playing this comp the whole series.
And no doubt, they should know how to play it better by that regard. I think Jodello's May can make a difference. You just don't have an orbital ray. You gotta back off. You can't take this fight at the immediate moment. You go ahead for the next. Juven will live for now, but way off into the Redbird's backline.
Bob available for Vintage for any kind of stalls, as it's going to go out immediately.
It's a very early Bob, but it does prevent anyone from bracking up. Oh my god, Vintage just exploded on the high ground. Briarcliff focused them down. Been such a threat so far. As you said, Ray, Destiny's been playing this comp longer, and the Battle Cattle dip goes over to the Redbird Academy tank player. 15 seconds now to get a final touch, and Juven likely the one to have to do it.
Vintage now over onto the Widow as well. So if you're Briarcliff, you have to be extremely careful, and I think they have seen this opportunity. Jodello and Juven both going to be on dive kickers. Jodello goes over to that Genji now.
They don't even get to try it out. That was a shield bash, a javelin, any CC in this game you could possibly name was just used to keep the Chargers off of the payload. My goodness, Redbird Academy have this Orisa composition down to a T. Whether it was strictly for the Doomfist or not doesn't seem to matter. This is looking so dang clean, just on a macro perspective. We talked about that so much at the beginning of this series, Ray, about having an understanding of how the compositions are played is way more important than what the heroes are themselves.
I think both teams are playing within their respective compositions pretty well. I will say for the side of Briarcliff on that third point, I do think they wish they could have gotten a little bit more. I mean, as we have talked about, that second point can be extremely potent to be able to break through. But if you allow Illinois State Redbirds to be able to break through and get that second point, I don't think that's going to be enough distance on the third point. So they got to hope they hold them at second, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you're playing that sort of dive comp, like with the Doom, your goal is to disrupt and divide and conquer. Orisa's whole thing, along with Brig, is to corral everybody, stay as a tight-knit group, and just CC anybody that is in your sight. It's the complete opposite of what you're trying to accomplish on attack, and it's going to be even harder to do from a defensive perspective should that composition remain the same here, Ray. And it does scare me. The fights that Briarcliff won were scrappy at best. You were trading out. You had maybe one or two players alive at the tail end of it, whereas ISU, it was team kills or pretty darn close to it. Those are the kind of things we need to see start to change if Briarcliff Chargers want to have a better outlook on the rest of the series.
With a chance to tie the series 1-1, Briarcliff now shifting to their defense. Are they going to be able to make the requisite adjustments? As we talked about, they're great in those scrappy fights, but when they're trying to engage on pre-planned different compositions and different ideas. Seemed like Redbirds were getting the advantage. I mean, I just keep thinking back to how many times Arise is just completely distracting them in the backline, not even killing anyone, just like, hey, look at me, and then their tank is dead. But I do think one thing I'm liking defensively is I like Spooky Spanish going over to the Ram for this defense. I think, you know, the Ram's going to be a lot more tanky, a lot more meatier, and is going to be able to hold its own a lot better against Destiny on this Orisa.
What you lack with the Doomfist is frontline stability. Ramacha will give you that, sure, but if Destiny's on an Orisa, you still kind of get treated like a punching bag as Ramacha. There's not much that Spooky Spanish realistically is going to be able to do if Destiny plays his cards right. So Spooky Spanish is going to have to show us something absolutely insane or just stabilize long enough for Juven and Jodello to do their jobs.
As you see, Vintage already trying to take angles. What a nice throw, that dynamite splitting the legs of the statue. But again, for the side of ISU, it doesn't even look like they're going to attempt to take that high ground away. They're just going to go straight to the point and say, yo, Briarcliff, we have the point. You got to come meet us.
And eventually, that will be the case. One's kind of stabilizing on this high ground, but somehow it's Benji and Chop. I can't say I've seen a Brig 1v1 start an engagement. There were two players on the high ground that were never dealt with. Juven has been holding Benji's hand this whole time. Redbird Academy, they tried to get their support set up there, but they didn't scout it correctly, and that's going to come back to bite them in the worst way possible.
Yeah, it's tough to have your supports just kind of go off on their own and try and take that high ground when, you know, you got Juven who's just on this high ground doing a lot on this Ashe. I feel like at this point as a team, you got to go take that away, and it looks like that's the approach the Redbirds are going to take this time around. It's going to be the smart decision. Great last minute shield from Spooky Spanish to limit the dynamite.
Clean shots out of Juven. Doesn't result in any elimination, but certainly puts the Redbird Academy on guard. Jodello almost had a pulse bomb here. Fighting with Arise once again. Can't recall him particularly beating out Arise in a Tracer 1v1. He missed the health back. You never want to be the first Tracer to burn recall. You retreat to your supports. I like that Jodello isn't trying to take these ones anymore. He knows that Arise has beaten him in the past and doesn't want to take that same risk again. Instead goes for the support. It's Chombo. It's a pulse bomb into the back. He had no clue what was happening. Arise let them down, could try to strike back with a pulse bomb of his own, and does it on a Spooky Spanish. That's the best target you could have asked for. Dr. Death shall live and will almost have an ultimate of his own to pull out here. That orbital ray comes down. ISU Redbird Academy, all they need is a small little reset here, get their cooldowns back, and this is looking like a good old fight win thanks to Vintage and Dr. Death.
Vintage got a huge shot onto Jodello on that Tracer, so when they looked to get out of there, they ran into the Bob, and it just took one little shot from the Bob, and Jodello was dead. But again, it took the Redbirds just as long, almost, as it took Briarcliff. I think, you know, maybe it's like a 30-second-ish difference. I mean, they're also going to get that exiting stagger onto AJMR, so that's at least going to secure ISU this first choke, especially with Briarcliff playing the Ram. That's going to be a big deal, because that's kind of a position where you want to hold defensively with a more tanky tank like Ramatra.
Start it again. How do you get to this high ground? You get there first. That late stagger allowed Destiny to move towards this height. You got a hyper ring to back yourself out. Dr. Death has been also great on the placement of that, and you go ahead, just throw Spooky Spanish right back up, make him walk a couple more stairs. Why don't you? Illinois State, you just force the payload, right? Make Briarcliff eventually drop down to you, pull him into the Terror Surge, stun him out. You got a lot of options. If you're the Redbird Academy right now, your main concern, though, of course, is Juven. It's not a matter of Juven, can he hit the shots? It's when does Juven hit those shots that do scare you. Playing defensive hit scan is much easier than an offensive one because your positioning is already set up. It's all about supporting Jodello on pushing this payload while Destiny does his best to keep the rest of Briarcliff occupied.
Again, is you just see them moving together as a team, trying to take this high ground away. This is one thing we didn't see from Briarcliff on their attack.
Oh, and that's a great way to actually handle Briarcliff's own ult. It was a javelin followed by a rally and a whip shot to keep the annihilation off, but that wasn't the thing that came to bite him. It was Jodello's pulse bomb instead, and Briarcliff eventually got that control, but not without giving up a lot of payload progress there thanks to Arise.
Yeah, they put this in a position where they're only going to have to win one clean fight, and Redbirds are going to have the ults to be able to do that. Arise with his Pulse Bomb as Vintage is now going to swap over to the Widow.
Right.
So for Briarcliff, they're going to have to be very wary and very careful of these sight lines, because Vintage gets one pick that immediately the Redbirds are going to pounce.
This switch just says, we need Juven gone. You do not want Juven to be an issue anymore. Put Vintage on a scary character. Vintage is a bit of a liability, though. For some reason, Jodello manages to find his way close enough to actually fight the sniper. It's not looking so hot for the Redbird Academy. You just want to buy the space. But hey, Jodello's no longer a problem. Rise won the 1v1 on the payload and actually going for a stick on the brig, just shy of a hit. The whole Tracer's job here is not only fight the other Tracer for map control, but push the dang payload. ISU Academy is close to getting this objective because of Arise's work alone. Unfortunately, you did not support your Tracer in this matter, and it's looking like Redbirds are gonna have to reset once again.
As we're going to see Spooky Spanish and the rest of Briarcliff trying to get aggressive and find these picks, but Vintage is the one who's found the pick.
There it is, but they're getting so aggressive. Benji aggressively shield bashed forwards with a rally. That mistake is punished by an orbital ray. Woo! That was ISU. They punished Briarcliff for getting way too greedy at that exact point. And ISU is a team that can identify when those windows of opportunity are, or rather, when that window is left open so you can crawl through and find yourself an objective.
We see Juven, who's now gone over the window to match the battle. Jadela gets Chombo.
Yeah, that's actually one that could work out. Destiny trades a 1-for-1. They don't have a tank, though. Doomfist gets back so much faster. It's really on to Arise, or, well, not anymore, to pull this through. ISU Academy needs to reset fast if they want to get another touch.
Wow, what clutch coming in from Briarcliff to be able to... I mean, Benji going over to the Genji was able to allow... to the Zenyatta, I'm sorry, Benji over to the Zenyatta, allowed a lot of damage going on to the side of Destiny, and when they went for that Terra Surge, just got absolutely blown up. Arise does have a Pulse Bomb, Chombo will get this rally. Advantage does go to Redbirds at this point.
They're gonna have it, and it's an even bigger one. Juven dips Vintage in the Widowmaker duel. And Briarcliff Chargers, they're on top. They got an advantage. What else can they turn it into? Dr. Death is down. The rally gets absolutely nowhere. And it's the Chargers who stabilize against all odds, pulling back out the Doomfist, the hidden, well, not so secret ace up their sleeves, and will close out a Blizzard world, showing how close ISU Academy and Briarcliff can stand.
This is exactly the situation I said Briarcliff needed to find themselves in. They had to stop Redbirds at second point because they did not get enough distance on that third point, and they did exactly that, and that was just clutch coming in from Briarcliff, going over the Doomfist and then pulling out that Zenyatta at the very end to be able to get those crucial picks to flip that fight in their favor, because it was going to be rough if they gave up that second point.
You didn't have an option. You had to find a way to pull through, and you gotta give it to Spooky Spanish. He really stepped it up there on that Ramatra, doing what he needed to do. Again, bit of a punching bag for Destiny, but that's not the big deal. The whole reason of you trying to match that Brawl character was to make sure Destiny couldn't disrupt Juven and Jodello. Those are the two players that really were the ones that made the difference and made that hold possible for Briarcliff. In the backline, Juven found pick after pick onto this, specifically Benji, and a little, or not Benji, onto Chombo, as well as fought a lot better against Arise. Those are the step-ups that Briarcliff needed to make. They identified it from the first map, or even that previous attack that they just had. And it's now ISU Academy that are the ones that have to identify what really happened there in that last map. How did the wheels fall off the bus at the end?
And that's going to be a question both of these teams have to answer going forward, is how can they maintain the success they had for Redbirds on map number 1 and for Briar for map number 2. Folks, we have ourselves a series, 2 maps down. Can we get another map 5? We're going to find out right after this break.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days
Has a
ago.
dog been digging in here?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to us. Just leave it.
Hell with that.
Oh! Ah, yeah, there's something in there. Ah!
Want one?
Thank you.
It was worth it.
Well, Ray, said this before. Our first series was a map fiver. We're about to get another one. ISU and Briarcliff have been hand in hand with both of our maps so far, and it's just fitting that they are tied up at a 1-1 scoreline as we prepare to head into our third map of Push.
And outside of we being tied 1-1 after the previous years, we haven't seen a lot of similarities. But as you can see, as we bring up the map choice, map 3, just like the last series, is going to be Esperanza.
Following a similar path line, no Murasapa yet really shocks me. I feel like every single time that a push map is available for selection as of late, since Murasapa came out, it's been that Peruvian map. But we're returning to the nostalgic. I can't believe I'm calling a relatively new map nostalgic round of push in Esperanza right now. So, all right, we go ahead and take it. We keep the maps relatively the same. This was an ISU Academy pick, which is fascinating. This feels like a Doomfist map to me, personally. Ray, not sure what your thoughts are entirely on that. Are Redbird Academy going to give us a new look of the dive? We're going to stick on the Orisa. A lot of questions here that really can be posed as we look ahead to this next map.
I do think for the side of ISU, you're in a situation where this map is relatively okay for Doomfist. You know, it's not like Coliseo, where Coliseo is pretty good for Doomfist, or New Queen Streak, but Doomfist is viable here. So do you expect the enemy team to continue to play that so you counter it, or do you just go, look, like, we just got to play our own game and other comps that we feel comfortable in? It didn't go, I mean, it was close to last map, but you weren't able to get it done with that counter Orisa pick. But I mean, even when Briar went over to the Ramatra, they were still playing that Orisa, so maybe it's just their comfort right now.
Just part of the Destiny strat is really the question, so we'll have to see. It does sound like that there is a swap that came through. Vintage, the veteran and hit scan player, is out. It will instead be Alu making an appearance in this roster, and that one is quite fascinating, especially since you would think that the players that had a little bit more experience would typically be pretty impactful. Either that means we're moving away from a double hits or a hit scan sort of player, we're going to do a double flex DPS sort of deal. That would make the most sense to me as we go ahead forwards, especially when you know a team likes to play dive. If you're planning to play something different yourself, go ahead and sub it out, and that seems to be exactly the case for now. Alu is hovering the Echo, more of that flex DPS position where, as we know, much more comfortable on the hit scan.
Yeah, I agree that was definitely the signal there, was they probably weren't going to play hit scan on this map. I mean, I will say I didn't expect the Junker Queen to go along with this. I kind of thought they'd go more to a diva composition, but I'm all for it. I mean, we're just going to see kind of brawls going at it once again. The question is, can Juven handle Alu in these skies before Alu really finds that value with that focusing beam to help out the team get picks?
And that's kind of what you're looking at, is where does this damage go? How are you going to counter out a Juven now who is more well supported? We're not going to get that Doomfist dive after all. It's more that Ramatra and front line, but those are some nasty shots. Juven was hitting them before, but because Ash's range was recently nerfed, as well as the damage, you can't get this. You don't have the same killing power, right? You need to be playing much closer. The Ramatra allows you to do so, and you can dominate these high grounds with relative ease.
Yeah, and that's one issue, is just Chombo just kind of got caught lagging behind a little bit in the open, and you're able to pop that headshot for Juven. So, I mean, for the side of Illinois, you got to find a way to get on top of him and not allow those angles to be taken and those shots to be made.
Well, it's a little bit of a duel for this payload right now. But ISU Academy, they're at a disadvantageous position. You don't have any high ground control, and it's really only a Rise that's been able to push forwards. Destiny's been struggling to stay healthy ever since Dr. Death went to an early grave, and Briarcliff can easily win out this next fight and potentially stagger Rise.
Yeah, things have not been going well from the get-go for the side of ISU. I mean, this Ramatra composition is just working so well. I mean, Spooky Spanish is able to hold the midway fight against the Junker Queen just fine, and it's allowing Juven to just be fine on the high ground, taking shots, and allowing Jodella to just wreak havoc in the back line. And they do stop them from getting the cap, but Arise is down.
Yeah, Rise is falling. I mean, Juven has just been landing the shots like nobody's business. That prevents any sort of touch that the Redbird Academy were attempting to make. And Ray, just like we saw the last time Esperanza was played, this is looking very snowbally for Briarcliff.
And that can be, you know, the issue when it comes to push, and why people don't like it is that if one team gets off to a hot start, gets this cap, especially without having to use any ults, it can really start to go away as the orbital array comes out.
Oh. Look how aggressive AJMR is with their own ultimate. It's insane that this healing and damage boost are together. One of the best ultimates in the game right now. Jadolo tucks in a pulse bomb, hoping to wither Destiny down. Really has been able to do anything this game, Ray. The tanks have been rather silent because it's been the Juven, it's been the Jodello show. The tanks are just now getting close to grabbing their first ultimate of the game, and we're 3 minutes, 100+ meters in.
Alu's gonna go down. In comes the Bob, and things are just getting worse for ISU.
And they're trying. They got that orbital ray up now from Dr. Death. Trying to find a window with it, but I mean, Destiny's just on an island all by himself. What can he do? The DPS are too busy dealing with Juven, or rather distracting Juven, to actually support with anything on the front line.
You did get pretty much all the ults out of Briarcliff. You're going to get the rally online, but you have a lot to work with if you're ISU. This Rampage should be the kiss of death for Briarcliff.
You would have to hope. You're banking on something. But we've seen 3 Rampages canceled today by a rally, and I see Benji with one right now. It's the duplicate from Aloof first to spend them running, but Arise still falls. Even if they have the ultimates here, there's just not a point. If you're Briarcliff, you don't need to push a full completion. At this point, if I remember my statistics correctly, you are more than 95% likely to win this map from here on out. And they might do it right here. They backed off, bit their time, used the rally to come back in. Destiny didn't have a chance to rampage. Chombo couldn't pull the rally, and they're just knocking on the door. We are about to see an absolute speed run of this map. It'll be Destiny chucking himself at the payload, but it only hits Spooky Spanish. He would use the ultimate just to touch. That was their win con, and it's gone to waste. Alou returning on the Widow, the last hope. Both supports are gone, and Redbird Academy stabilization results in a new substitution, just nailing both supports in the face. That cannot be a crutch every single time. I don't think Briarcliff could have pushed that any farther, more impressively, against the Redbird Academy team.
I legitimately think 141 is like the max. I mean, that was dangerous margins that you're playing with for ISU, and I mean, they're able to get it done, but again, this still feels eerily similar to our previous series. Briarcliff drops the first map, comes strong on the second, and is bringing it once again on this third map, almost finishing it immediately. While ISU is playing on this uphill battle, Arise is going to have this pulse bomb, but Chombo is down.
Spooky Spanish just dropped off the bridge into a backline. Like, what a Chad move right there from Spooky Spanish. Not a care in the world. Destiny went back over to the Rissa. He's like, I don't want to fight into that. I'm going to go dive the backline instead. Juven cleans up on the high ground, and that one fight that ISU won, we're about to see them fight inside of the spawn again.
Juven is a monster. He has been backpacking this team on the entire map, finding constant damage, headshots, dynamites, everything. You're doing everything and more that you would hope for out of your Ashe player.
You took the hit scan player out. That's what was keeping Juven at bay, was ISU's Ashe. Like, now that that's swapped, Arise has decided to try to pick it up himself and see if that will result in any deterrence of these sightlines, and Juven can get less value, be less confident in the front. Orbital Ray, though, another way to pull that out. Dr. Death helps with Jodello's elimination. The rest of Briarcliff are being leaving shortly after. Or not. Just put Bob back in there. That's fine, too. We don't get a chance to breathe as play-by-play casters. That's chill. Like, this is what push is at this point, Ray. Briarcliff don't need to win fights. They just need to prevent ISU from moving from this corner.
And now you're going to be facing what could be a really dangerous Annihilation and Orbital Ray that you could throw out here. Destiny is going to have that Terra Surge. You're getting close to that rally, but here comes the Orbital Ray.
No Terra Surge for you, Destiny. Not while Spooky Spanish and HMR have anything to say about that. Rise, bit of a return on the hit scan. It's working out, sure. You gotta get your tank back in this picture fast, though. A Terra Surge is going to be key, or you could just have a Lou dupe the tank for you, make up for that absence. And Ray, we've been at the spot for like a solid 3 minutes now. Nobody is moving. Briarcliff know what the win condition is, and ISU are fighting really to try to move a mountain at this point.
And even if this rally comes in, you have to rally to combat it. Illinois might have to throw in all of their ults just to gain some footing, and that is not what you want. You have to try and get this with just the rally and maybe a Terra Surge. You can't throw in the Bob as well.
They're gonna do that, but the Terra Surge, everyone just gets outside of it. There's nothing to be gained. Chombo, I believe, tried to synergize a shield bash into it, and it just, the timing was slightly off. It didn't result in what you needed it to. Rise is kind of corralled up into this corner, lighting themselves on fire. Oh no. That's okay, that's okay. You're not mainly a hit scan player. You work with what you got here. Illinois State, they still have ultimates to work with right now. It's just not, oh my god, Arise! I don't think Ash is his hero. Poor Bob is just put in a timeout corner. And now you have to fight into your own orbital ray. I mean, disaster is striking for Illinois State. They've gotten in their own heads at this point. Eventually you'll win a fight, sure, but something like that out of Arise, that really has to hurt.
I mean, you're going to get the clean team kill, but it pretty much took every ult you have.
Yeah.
Briarcliff will come back. They'll get the Annihilation, the Bob, the Orbital Ray. I mean, you're finally going to get some distance in your favor, but 2 minutes on the clock, and you got basically the entire map to be able to push. It just feels almost, I'm going to put the little caveat, almost impossible for Illinois State.
Hey, at least it won't be a complete shutout. You now have 11 meters, and Rise is dead. Look where that positioning is from Ash. Like, Juven and Benji have been going on these great off angles together. That is what you should be doing with the hit scan. Make sure they can't be dived on. You go ahead, come out where no one expects it, and ISU, they've been caught off guard by that. Pretty much every fight where we've seen Juven get at least one elimination.
Briarcliff, it just seems to have hit a secret second gear that they had after that first map, and it's looking great, and not even having to use a lot of ults. They're going to be able to use a 5-pack here. This pretty much might seal the deal for Briarcliff for this map. I mean, I say that, but Juven's down.
I mean, you win the fight, Ray, but what does that mean? Even if ISU can close it out, you're fighting it at 5 ults. It's not looking good. Maybe you deny a full completion, but you gotta win, like, what, 6, 7 fights in a row to get back? Maybe less than that if it's an overtime push, just because respawns are longer. The odds are not in your favor, to put it even mildly. Briarcliff, he can grab Spooky Spanish, that'd be pretty sick. Can't do it. It's Juven on the high ground. You've got to respect those sight lines.
Yeah, they have not been. They're allowing Juven to absolutely rain havoc onto their entire team. They do trade out their Echo for the Tracer, but for what at this point?
Not much. It is looking grim for the ISU Redbirds. Briarcliff have stepped it up since map number 1. After a back and forth battle, it has been the Chargers who have quite literally charged through the Redbird Academy team. They've barely shown us signs of life here on Esperanza, and will find themselves at the payload. Literally, I think the farthest distance you'd have to possibly push this for a full comeback is here. But you got a Bob in your back line. Spooky Spanish at the front. What can you do to make this happen? You lost out on your support and your second to follow it. No orbital ray for you. It's just Destiny left standing, but not for long with the lack of heals on your team. And it's the Briarcliff Chargers, Ray. Ultimate page setting for this push map, and they're gonna put themselves at a match point in probably the most dominant fashion I've seen in push in a while.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, the last series was just as dominant. I mean, you did get, you know, a little bit of a comeback from on this map, but it was still pretty much a dominating effort. But all these considered, Briarcliff has looked fantastic, and I was worried that, you know, maybe they could only play the Doomfist, but they showed strong on this Ramacha composition. And again, it really felt like the difference was Juven. So it questions why Vintage was not in. Could have helped even out that duel.
I think it makes sense. Like, I think the double flex DPS, having an Echo here is great. But if you're not going to contest Juven on an Echo, and I think that's what they were expecting, Juven to play the Echo, and they could have more of a mirror in that regard, but it took way too long to swap off of that, and the one answer you needed in Vintage is no longer there. I don't think Alu necessarily did bad, it's just not what you needed for that specific points. And that's about, I don't think Juven's sightlines were respected much at all. He was just hitting the shots rather for free. People were walking in front of him. He did have some great off angles, which we did see a couple times with Benji, but that wasn't the result of every single elimination that he was able to grab as an opener. It's some things that the Redbird Academy, I complimented how clean their playstyle was. Their discipline and their ability to function in a macro capacity completely fell off there at Esperanza. They got so far behind that it was impossible to make a comeback, and hopefully a reset of the map and map type can change some things around for them.
For ISU, backs against the wall. They drop the next map. It is all but over. So, map number 4. We know when it comes to map 4, you either get a choice between Clash and Flashpoint. We have it chosen. ISU has decided to take us to Flashpoint. No surprise there. The question is, what map are we going to go to? I mean, we talked about previous series how we felt like Junkertown, New Junk City, I'm sorry, was an increasing in popularity map pick type of thing. But we got Saravasa last time, so I mean, throw all that out the window. I'm not sure.
You know, sometimes you gotta. We can't predict. We can't predict what's going in their players' heads. We can tell you what the trends are, but if we could see the future, we could tell you a lot more than just what map is going to be selected.
If I could see the future, I would have won the lottery, and I wouldn't be doing this.
Dang, Ray. I see how it is. But hey, we do love collegiate esports. You gotta put it that. Even if I won the lottery, I'd probably still be here.
Yeah, you're probably right. I would need something.
I was gonna be let's be honest, Ray. We'd probably still be doing this.
Yeah, I need something to do. I would have quit my job, be bored. I'm like, let's just do casting. I have money anyway.
Talk about Overwatch. We do love some good Overwatch. And this has been very solid gameplay so far. I think it was just a game plan that ISU had in place. It didn't work, and it took way too long to swap off of it. You didn't have the resources or the ultimates or the time or the play. So many things just were not in ISU's favor from the very beginning of Esperanza. You're going to need a clean slate and ideally a clean mentality going forward. So I think that's my bigger concern, because you just spent the past 10 minutes with your backs up against the wall, barely holding on to life, knowing that it was pretty unlikely you were going to win that whole time.
Yeah, they're going to be in a situation where they have to completely mentally reset and just basically throw that map in the trash and look to just get back to what they were on Nepal. And I think Flashpoint is going to help them do that with the way and the aggression they try to play with. I'm still curious what Briar's going to do in this situation. Are they going to go more back to that Doomfist? I mean, I feel like maybe if you go Saravasa, that's a possibility. But if we go to New Junk City, maybe they stick to the Ram.
The Ram feels like the overall better pick. As I said before, the Doomfist, while it can work in disrupting teams, especially ones that aren't coordinated, Doomfist is great. But we're talking about the Redbird Academy here. If there's one team that's on the same page, even if it isn't the right page, it's this team, all right? If you're going to play a Doomfist, you're winning these fights, and they're going to be scrappy. It's not going to be pretty. You're going to be losing players left, right, and center. Not an ideal situation. Once we've seen this Ramatcha sort of style come out, you put Juven on this Ashe, everything looks more stable, and the battles look more controlled. It's not as flashy or panicky as what was happening back on Nepal, and that play style has played a lot better into their hands so far. So I think that whatever map is decided, I think the Ramattra, to me, feels like the better pick. It's more on ISU Academy to decide whether they stick with the Orisa, they pull that JQ back out. It's all this mental game that we're playing out. So you gotta go with the things that you know for certain. And now, right, that is the map pick. It will be New Junk City for this time.
Very excited, and just to piggyback off a little bit of what you're saying, you know, back when I used to play a little bit more, when I was, you know, not casting as much and played, one thing just ranged true in my head that my coach used to say: if you're going to be wrong, let's all be wrong on the same page together. Like, exactly. It's only going to work out better for us. So it doesn't matter what these teams read or what they like to play meta-wise, as long as they're on the same page and playing within their comp, they have a better chance at winning.
Yeah, I think that they did realize. ISU Academy went back to the drawing board, reflected on that map, we're like, all right, what do we need to do to change? Number one thing was put Vintage back in. Saying it again, though, Alu did not do bad. It's just not what you needed on that particular map. And Echo, great in any other situation, as long as you have a way to contest Juven. It seems like the compositions will change a tad bit moving forwards. If this was what Briarcliff is actually running, I'm very excited to see how this turns out.
I am going to hold off on that. So for ISU, this looks like what they're going to play. So we got the Destiny going to go over to the Orisa. Vintage going to play that Ashe. No surprises there. And I'm assuming Arise will go over to the Tracer once they TP out. And they are going to have Juven play the Venture and Jodella play the Mei. So full on brawl action. Looking to just get into the face, separate Destiny, and blow them up with those Mei walls.
This is more of the meta that we've been seeing lately. Venture and Mei together along with a Ramatra. Woohoo! You better keep your distance, people, especially Vintage. Vintage wants to poke. Destiny wants to poke. Destiny's already had to use Fortify, and we're playing Ring Around the Rosie right now. That is a scary thought for the Redbird Academy team. Flashpoint is open. It's a matter of seeing who will want to contest first. That's the nice part of Arise being the only Tracer. Redbird Academy will automatically have more point protection. You just got to find a way. As we're still playing cat and mouse on this high ground, it's actually ridiculous. It's Vintage that eventually gets that first pick, and Briarcliff take a shortcut towards that objective. Vintage strikes again. We just needed to see this player back in the field.
Yeah. Again, like this, again, nothing against Alu, whatever. It just feels like the Ashe in this series has been extremely important, and we're just seeing that poke its head again. So it's just like, what would have happened if ISU had that Ashe to match up with Juven on the previous map? And the big question is, how long is it going to take before Briarcliff realizes they just need to match this Ashe at that point? Because, you know, we saw what happened when ISU didn't match it.
I'm pretty sure also we completed like 2 laps around the arena here. It's just a Briarcliff chasing the Redbirds around. Like, that's actually insane. What is more insane though is Vintage already has a Bob. That's the amount of work that they've put in. Bob, short-lived, sure, does slow down Briarcliff slightly. They're trying to catch him off. Juven's already way in there, close to an ultimate. Eventually, you're going to have to fight on this point, though. Juven trying to stay alive for now. You use all your cooldowns, and you happen to be right in Destiny's firing range. You really don't need to do too much else here. Briarcliff can stabilize on the point. You wait till the support ults are falling, knowing that you have a player advantage. Throw a Terror Surge on top of it. Not a super important ultimate, as long as your tank lives. That is. It's trade of AJMR for Destiny. And I gotta say, having a tank here is looking pretty darn good. Gotta take Spooky Spanish out. That's exactly what Redbird Academy do. And just have much more to say on this point. The DPS are tanky as ever, but the supports bloodthirsty, Ray.
Yeah, Dr. Death and Jumbo actually going sicko mode on the support line, taking AJMR off. That's going to be the point flip, and that should be the point cap for ISU. And that's got to be just a great feeling after what happened on that previous map to come in, get that first point, and it was kind of a dominating fashion there. So it just, you could say, look, calm down. We got this. We can do it. And they've basically just regained their momentum.
Yeah. I think Vintage being back in seems to have a lot of difference in the way that the team plays cohesively, too. Like, just riding away for that long and not getting lost, the discipline and the comms, just, they feel better. I can see the difference on the screen, but Juven is back on that Ashe. That is where the whole reason that Vintage, we were worried of him not being in the first place. He'll get diffed almost immediately after the swap, and Briarcliff can secure this first percentage on bomb flats.
I was wondering when Juven was going to say enough is enough and go over to the Ashe and meet him on it. And it just took 1 point loss for him to be able to do that. So the question is, how will Vintage respond? I mean, on the previous match, we saw great exchange, but Juven gets the better end once again.
Yeah, Juven is just hot on this Ashe. You tried something on the Venture. I like the attempt. I'm a personal fan of the Rock Muncher, too. But if it's just some good old-fashioned shooting that's going to win you the day, Chargers, do what you got to do.
Apparently, Tiny doesn't value teeth. Wants to chomp on some rocks. It's okay, though. But Vintage is able to fire back, get Juven, and this is going to open up the floodgates for ISU to push in.
There you go. Orbital Ray now. ISU Vintage is actually pretty low here. Got chunked down a tad bit. Sports line has been taken out. The rest of Briarcliff should be crumbling here momentarily. We'll get about 1 fight territory left on Bomb Flats here. Not too bad after some recent swaps either.
And it was just great wherewithal to only be able to use that orbital ray. So it's going to help Briarcliff coming up on 4 ults to be able to match them for the most part. Rally, Terra Surge, and Bob. But like we mentioned, Briarcliff is going to have the ability to commit that last ult. They're going to throw Bob in, but no one's on the point really.
It's both Bobs in mirroring positions. One Bob is shooting the other, though, and it's going to be Juvens who wins the good old Bob on Bob matchup, if anybody's curious about that. There's just more ultimates on the Redbird sides, or, well, at least there was. Briarcliff used theirs way too early and didn't get as much value out of them as they could. That's where that disciplined style comes into play. Redbird Academy comms are firing on all cylinders, and that results in team kills like that.
Briarcliff does put themselves in a position where if they can touch, they will have that rally and most likely that annihilation advantage. But with how far the spawns are, maybe if they have Jodello hurry up and go touch it, there's a possibility, and then they can recommit with those ults.
You don't have a touch. I mean, you kind of do. It's going to be a close one, though, and your Ashe is stuck with a pulse bomb. Juven is down, and that's kind of been the main way Briarcliff have been getting into these fights, is Juven just getting someone's head rolling on the ground. ISU took away that murder factor, to put it very bluntly, and Briarcliff don't have a whole lot to work with for now. Will be committing the annihilation to this fight, which I'm assuming will signal a swap. This just doesn't feel winnable in any capacity. I mean, Spooky Spanish is certainly trying his best. You just can't do much. The sustain is there. You're fighting into eventually an orbital ray and probably a Bob soon here from Vintage. Should this be expended further? ISU Academy, they're getting their ult bank drained is what this is coming down to. Heavily favored to win out the battle, but they're not going to be set up very well for the future points, which if you're going to be down 2-0 as Briarcliff, drain as much as you possibly can out of your opponents and hope that can be the rest. Pulse bombs are exchanged too. Maybe get a Terra Surge out of Destiny. That would be like an A+ stall. Can't get that far though. It will be a Illinois State map point here.
I mean, you say, just try and drain these ults, but Briarcliff committed 3, the Bob, the Pulse Bomb, and the Annihilation there, while Illinois only committed their Orbital Ray and their Pulse Bomb, so they're going to have 3 going against 2, so all things considered, Illinois still has the advantage in the ult economy for what could be our final point on New Junk City.
And this is the point that if you're Briarcliff, you're like, dang it, why did we go here? It's the most open, you want to play the poke, Destiny Vintage, it's their map, but not if Juven gets the dip, that damage boost and dynamite, really gonna hurt. Nice whip shot from Benji too. It should be Briarcliff getting a first capture here, and you're gonna need it considering how well Illinois State have been roaring back.
Yeah, that was just Briarcliff getting aggressive, getting in the face of Illinois and not allowing them to poke, as you mentioned. That's the thing that Illinois' win condition is: keep your distance, allow Vintage, Destiny to poke, allow Arise to get into the back line and bother your supports, and that's kind of their win condition. But Briarcliff said, no, we're not going to allow you to take the space. We're going to get in your face, and Juven's going to kill Vintage.
I'm getting a feeling of deja vu. Isn't this how last point started, where Briarcliff were just winning because Juven was ripping heads off? This feels a little bit familiar. It is a very narrow choke. Illinois State will have a hard time finding an angle here. Look how far Briarcliff are holding. They want to deny any of the angles to begin with.
Yeah, the big issue with this is at some point, Arise might be able to sneak by and start applying some pressure to the point, so you just got to be wary and careful of that. But at any point, you can just throw Bob and try and stop the rotation.
You could just throw Bob into the middle of ISU Academy's team. That works too. Goodbye, Arise. Did not see Juven coming from behind there. 86% and counting for Briarcliff. Are they about to completely shut out ISU Academy on this point? It certainly seems like it. You're down players. Someone's got to get a touch, and it doesn't happen. AJMR grabs a final blow. This will be a couple staggers now as ISU. They're going to have to try it again for next point. Briarcliff still fighting.
I mean, the only consolation you take out of that if you're ISU is you didn't use any ults. So you're going to have the ult bank to match Briarcliff when we get to this next point. So it's not like Briarcliff kind of dominated that point, gets to come into the next one with a big ult advantage. So that's good for ISU. So really, it's going to be about who takes advantage of these ults, because 2 points ago, Briarcliff got a little too aggressive and didn't get enough out of it. Seems they've corrected that a little bit, but will that maintain is the big question.
And it's not bad for ISU to lose this fight either. I think they honestly gave up that point to build up ults. You only gotta win one more flashpoint, right? You can make it, Ducks, right here, right now. You got the ult bank to work with. One less on the pulse bomb, sure. Plenty more left to go. Orbital Ray over the high ground. It forces Spooky Spanish to use the ultimate, booped away with that rally. That's been excellent counter play out of Chombo all day on this Brigida. You love to see it for sure, but Briarcliff had managed to put their flag down here. That is the fourth ult, that ISU Academy have had to use, and it's gotten nothing. Briarcliff has slammed every single door that Illinois State have attempted to open so far. It's only now Spooky Spanish goes down because he very much overstayed his welcome out of the LOS of support. Hopefully you don't have to use the Bob out of Vintage to try to clean this one up. Briarcliff have controlled this jet. Somebody on ISU has to attempt to get a flip at some point, and it's only now that it's happening. Vintage commits the Bob as an extra layer of insurance, but oh my gosh, was that expensive, Ray.
I mean, both teams pretty much threw in everything they have. Juvenile will be able to re-engage with the Bob with their own, but Vintage is popping off.
Clean. Hey, you need someone to hit the shots? Vintage is there. That is your trusty hit scan player. Oh, they're staggering Benji too. This is brutal for Briarcliff.
Yeah, they're going to get it. Oh, no, they don't get out. Oh, Arise gets it. Absolutely devastating. Because you're going to get all the way up to probably almost 60%. But Vintage has been found.
Juven.
Huge pick by Juven.
Vintage was confident, but Juven's got a support stand-in right next to him. Vintage. That's an insane differential to have to ask. Sell Juven's Bob on the point. The Orbital Ray, that doesn't even do much of anything. Look where the rest of Redbird Academy are. No one can even play in it with how much pressure Spooky Spanish is applying to this backline. It's up to Destiny and Rise, the dude that make the turnaround. They got both DPS players out of the Chargers. Gotta manage to work a way through the rally. Both supports are now being countered out. Destiny doesn't have much health to spare, but it's enough for now. You gotta find a way to beat up this tank. Destiny, no cooldowns in the bank. This is their weakest point, yet it's still not enough. Redbird Academy looking to close this map out here, and now Briarcliff's comeback not meaning much to this team whatsoever, Ray. It was like it was written out from the beginning. We are gonna get ourselves a second Map 5 series.
What more can we ask for in week number 1 to start things out Overwatch-wise for NECC? Then they get 2 back-to-back 5-map bangers, Tiny.
Wow. Just wow. We wanted to see what NECC Overwatch had to offer this season, and let me tell you, people, it is some great things. Vintage coming back into this team spelled an astronomical difference for the squad, not only in just popping off and hitting the shots as you expect a hit scan to do, but you could see it in the fights, the decision making that Illinois State was taking. It looked different, it looked more cohesive, and it was incredibly smart, and that's what a player such as Vintage, experienced as their name states, can bring to a roster.
The question is, again, this is vibes that we felt from the previous series, and what ended up happening was the team that was in position of Briarcliff was able to come through strong in the clutch on map number 5. We did end up going to Circuit Royale. I don't think we're going to go there. We're going to have to figure out what's going to happen after this map. Number 5 coming up to you after this break.
Oh man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey man, grab me a meat stick. I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh God! No, come on, just reach. Reach. Just grab my hand. I can't hold it. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is... Oh!
are 9 maps into our NECC Overwatch season, and that is 9. We had a Map 5 series heading into our first matchup in Division 4, and our Division 1 game is delivering at the highest levels. ISU Academy end their 2-map losing streak to push us to that Game 5, the one that we have faded and we as casters love oh so dearly. It will be an escort selection since we already picked Hybrid earlier on in the day, and Briarcliff choose to end our series on none other than Route 66.
And it's daytime Route 66, so
Ew.
It's, just classic Route 66 before, they made all the day and nighttime changes. I'm excited to watch this fold out. I mean, you weren't so excited during our break when we found out it was Route 66, but
Yeah.
I have a soft place in my heart for Route 66.
It's just brown, man. It's brown and orange and like rusty. It's not colorful. I like colorful maps,
Man,
you know?
I have never taken you to Zion National Park in Utah. It's beautiful with all the. It's same with the Grand Canyon. It's a lot of oranges.
I've been to the Grand Canyon. And I was not impressed.
Oh.
Hey, I'm like the epitome of a Gen Zer who can look at a picture of something online and be perfectly satisfied. I don't have to see it in real life, so that doesn't really count. So Route 66, I mean, it's kind of the Grand Canyon, right? Yeah, it's right there. You don't want to fall in the canyon. It's certainly not part of the game plan. But speaking of canyons, we thought there would be one between these two teams, and there is certainly far from that. It's more like a teensy little crack in the middle. Destiny has been very strong on this Orisa so far, and seems to be setting up on it on the defense. It's really up to Briarcliff how they want to attack, knowing what the Redbirds are going to play.
I mean, no surprise here from either team, sticking to the Ramatra and the Orisa on this map. Interesting. Okay, Juven is going to go over to the Ashe. It's going to be Ashe versus Ashe. I think that could determine how this ends up going, is who gets the better end of the Ashe duel in the end. I think, all things considered, I think Vintage did slightly better than Juven on the last map, and that was the reason why Illinois was able to take it ultimately.
Yeah, you 100% go ahead and take those if you are your Illinois State right now. And it's up to Briarcliff. Can you get the Juven the angles here? Absolutely. And he put in a torpedo on top. Can't really dodge those very easily. They are auto lock. Whether you enjoy that or not, that is the reality. For Vintage, who has currently hit the deck, Juven has free reign over a lot of these long-range angles. You're at the Redbird Academy. You need to be cautious. Like, look what happens. You jump out. That was most of the damage done by Juven. It was AJMR to finish it off. Jodello deep into the back line, and Briarcliff make very fast work of this first point.
And again, that was Jodello absolutely got onto the side of the gas station and was just free firing, and no one was even looking at him. And they applied so much pressure and forced out so many cooldowns that then you're able to take angles if you're Juven and find and free fire. Destiny getting off the Orisa, gonna go over to the Winston. So looking to try and get on top of Juno, AJMR, or Juven for the Ashe and try and make their lives a little bit harder, as the Ramatra gonna have to try and stand packed as a stalwart figure.
Well, thankfully for Juven, you've been playing with Benji the whole time. Benji did get booped off and hit with an anti-nade. This is a good swap from Redbird Academy. If you can disrupt Juven enough so it's no longer a problem and you cannot take these aggressive off angles anymore, that significantly hurts the killing power of Briarcliff.
I think the swap over to the Ana plus the Winston is going to help a lot for the side of Illinois. And now that they have control, they can allow Vintage to take this high ground, free fire, and then you'll have anti-nades you have to constantly worry about while you have a giant monkey with a shield in your face.
It's not an ideal situation for Briarcliff, but we're going to make do with what they have. For now, that's an orbital ray. Can't really be matched, so ISU Academy got to retreat to the high ground here. Unfortunately, it is Vintage that instead gets caught out. At least he got the trade for Juven. If ISU can make work with it, that'd be wonderful. They've already had to use both of their DPS ultimates, and I know you don't want to use Rally or Nano unless it is absolutely necessary. Got to be concerned with how far this payload is moving. The entire job of the Tracer is to push it on forwards. Eventually, they will manage to get the contest, take out Spooky Spanish. We got ourselves a full reset.
Yeah, this Winston composition is working extremely well for ISU, and their ults are just coming through strong. I'd say you didn't commit a whole ton of your Briarcliff. You'll get that pulse bomb back quickly, so really it was just that orbital ray. So you put yourself in a position where you can match ult for ISU on this defense, but they have to find a way to unhinge this defense, and getting Vintage off that high ground is huge.
Now, Vintage has died first every single fight that we've seen on Route 66 so far. Briarcliff have his number, and it's worked out. Destiny has traded it out for Juven. Every time I've been on the Winston, now is the one exception. It is Send Destiny that is being traced by the Ashe. He's like, wait a minute, this isn't quite right. Pops the Primal Rage, knocks them all, going for the environmental elimination. Juven drops down, jukes him out for a little bit, keeps himself on the map and in sightlines of his supports. Unfortunately, while that was happening, he can't keep track of AJMR. Arise is in the backline. Vintage finally returns, and so much damage has been done. Spooky Spanish still pops this annihilation. I mean, I would imagine that would be a switch unless Dardello just keeps cleaning up the way he has. That's 2 picks going in that direction. It's still very scrappy, but Briarcliff have enough to stand it through and push this point to 1-fight territory before eventually Arise shuts it down.
Juven is going to swap over to the Widow. AJMR finds Vintage, so things get a little bit
again.
tougher, but with Spooky Spanish going down, that should wrap things up. But Juven still on these off angles. You have to be careful if you're ISU, because one pick here can be absolutely devastating, and they do find Juven.
They do find Juven. I mean, Briarcliff still 4 for 4 on fight engages where Vintage is the one to go down first. You gotta keep your Widowmaker, well, now back to Ash, thankfully, alive in order to keep that happening, though.
ISU finds themselves in a great position. They've been wasting so much time on this clock, and this is where things do get tough on Route 66. It's very hard to get, you know, Vintage off of this high ground. The only time they were able to do that was on a quick early pick. And it looks like they're attempting to do that again.
Dynamite. Massive dynamite. If that orbital ray wasn't there, they'd all be dead, but they're dead anyways. Arise has blown the backline to smithereens. ISU at Academy firing on all cylinders, sure, but their support line was traded out just the same. Vintage, a sliver of HP. That's not going to last long at all. Should the Ash get scouted out, he has to play safe for the time being and rely on Arise to continue the cleanup. What a pop-off.
Coming down to the final minute on the clock for Briarcliff to try and deliver this point home. They will have the pulse. They will have the rally. Maybe they build up to the annihilation. ISU, they're going to have this Winston, Primal Rage, a Nano, and a rally. So, again, Briarcliff had a lot of opportunities where they do good, where they get aggressive, but
the nade! Oh, but they can't do it. The nade was just simply too strong. You don't have any options left, and just like that. A wonderful play out of Dr. Death. This dive composition is yet to be cracked, Ray, and if it keeps going like this, all the tools of Briarcliff, they're gone.
I mean, they'll still have a pulse, and they will build up to this annihilation. 14 seconds on the clock. They don't have time to waste. They have to get going as we see Spooky Spanish making their way to the point. Rally available for Chumbo.
Ooh, Chumbo. Pop is at the right time to help them stabilize, but guess what? Vintage didn't die for the very first time, and Briarcliff, they don't know what to do. The Ash player's alive. You gotta worry about a hit scan now. That's a second now from Vintage. Spooky Spanish trying to zone off the objective. Someone has to get back in touch. It will be Destiny in this case, but the health bar isn't going to last long. Dr. Death doesn't have the LOS to heal their tank. Briarcliff should not be winning this right now. They didn't have any ultimates. They didn't have any tools. It was just Spooky Spanish zoning ISU Academy just enough to keep them away. The Bionades from Dr. Death weren't well timed, and Destiny was out of LOS. Those small things cost them the point.
That annihilation coming online just in time for Spooky Spanish to force a lot of the pressure he was under away, as Dr. Death's now going to go back over to that Juno. Still going to keep the Winston. Oh no, they're not. Destiny's going to go back over to the Orisa, as this third point is going to be a lot more close quarters, not as easy to get value out of that monkey.
Yeah, not as much. You gotta just try to play we're gonna be a solid rock, a solid pillar in the front line that cannot be moved. I like that sort of game style. But you gotta actually get to that ground first. We're moving a decent amount of the way through where there's not good enough cover for the defenders to hold up. You're fighting for control over on the semi-truck area, and it's the attackers who have it. Briarcliff very much set up for success. Shield, the Bob gets absolutely nowhere. They've just been popping off himself, but the Bobs have not been as strong. You do have to get your tank out of danger. Spooky Spanish holding the block for dear life. Will be okay to live another day, but this payload's already through. That's how much commanding space that Briarcliff have took. Illinois State have not had an opportunity for a full contest yet, and they may not get one at all. Destiny has fallen. The snowball of Briarcliff's Chargers is back online. Couple meters remaining, and it's Vintage on a venture. A great stalling hero, sure, but you're not going to last long without a team and without any line of support. AJMR diffing Dr. Death, and there's just not much. Redbird Academy, they're in desperation territory. You're in Saul, trying to hope for a miracle, and there's none on the horizon. Briarcliff Chargers will get a full completion on their own map pick.
And that's a big time completion. If you got held up at second point, it was going to look pretty rough for them to win this series. But this puts them in a great position. This is not the easiest of maps to be able to complete. So shout outs to Briarcliff for coming through in the clutch when things got, you know, down and dirty in the middle of those big, long fights. Their comm structure, everything looks intact. And, I mean, they put themselves in a great position to bring this home.
And this is best case scenario out of Briarcliff, especially with how that second point went. I was so confident that ISU were about to just stomp on Briarcliff's confidence and be like, nah, you stop here, and have the best attack of their lives. But that didn't happen. ISU had one moment of just multiple things going wrong, and they never recovered. Briarcliff took advantage of the one opportunity they had, pushed up into the spawns, didn't allow Illinois State to touch until the payload was knocking on their doors. That is the kind of presence that Briarcliff needs to have to take a team down that is so confident in their own macro playstyle.
As once again, just like the last series, as soon as the first attack finishes, a pause was called. It feels like poetry at this point that both series have ended up in similar positions. We're either going to crown a victor on this next attack or we're going to extra rounds for these teams. The big question is going to be for the Redbirds. Can you complete this map? And if so, can you get yourself much more time for attacking when you go into the extra rounds? And for Briarcliff, I mean, you have your win condition. Just don't allow Redbirds to finish this map. And as I mentioned, this is not an easy one to be able to finish. Them getting across that finish line was a huge deal.
And what we've seen here, Ray, we've seen this pattern through a lot of maps, right? Is where Briarcliff, they play scrappy. They want to force this more kind of unconventional, rely on our individual players' mechanics to win sort of play style. Nothing wrong with that, but they have bursts of it. It's very inconsistent. Like, you have moments of complete and total pop-off, but then ISU is the epitome of stability. Very rarely are they going to be tripping over their own feet, but when that does happen, when they do find themselves stumbling over themselves, Ray, it turns into a snowball. Briarcliff gained so much from one little mistake. If ISU can find more consistency, or at least recover from some of those troubles that they're facing faster, I genuinely think that they're going to be able to pull ahead just by the pacing that the game has taken so far.
Well, we're about to find out how things turn out. Does Briarcliff leave this series with the big win over ISU Academy? Or do we get thrown into extras? On this defense, Briarcliff continuing to play this Ramatra that has done them very well. For ISU, it looks like they are going to continue to play this adaptation of the Winston, but instead of playing Brig with Chombo, looks like they're going to take a different alternate route and go with the Kiriko.
Interesting. Very interesting. Kiriko hasn't been making a big appearance these days. Usually she's just been used for her cleanse, for an Ana anti-nade. I don't think they would be expecting Briarcliff to do that, though. Benji has been on the Brig the entire game so far. So this is an interesting sort of adaptation. It is a good setup, I guess. Chombo will have a bit more survivability, can follow Destiny in if you really, really want to. As you're trying to execute these dimes, Dr. Death setups for the bio nades, you go ahead and follow it with the Winston, with the Tracer, whatever needs to happen, especially on this first point of gas station. We're in this initial sort of kind of poke each other out, forcing mistakes sort of phase right now, so you need to keep an eye on what these players are going for.
We see Spooky Spanish just holding the groundwork, trying to just not allow easy cart progress. I mean, especially when you're playing a Winston, it's tough. You gotta basically look to kill everyone else and then go after that tank because you just don't have enough damage to go after a Matra. Got him low, but it doesn't matter. You're able to pop the Annihilation and Vintage goes down.
Yeah, Vintage is down. And I think what we're seeing right now is the struggles of not having a... One, you're not able to jump to the high ground. You can't contest the players that you want to. And two, you can't play in the front line because Spooky Spanish is there. A very solid, I'm going to plant my feet and you can't move me sort of tank, especially when you don't have that Orisa. anymore. Briarcliff are fully in control of the pace.
That's going to be the thing, is trying to get
nade.
Juven off this high ground, and that nade plus the anti-monkey's enough to get them to force, and backup does get that Nemesis form out of the Ramacho, but it doesn't matter. Our Rise has gone down.
Benji just saved the entire team, but only temporarily. The Bionade from Dr. Death was still good. Jodello doing what he can to even out the trades in the back line. It's on Destiny now. This is a messy fight. But Illinois State, they're working with what they can get. Few opportunities in the first half of their attack so far. So moving past this gas station would be huge. Spooky Spanish still pops the ult. This is like the third time he's done that, and he's not even gonna live.
Yeah, that is a poor decision. I think he felt like he'd get the extra shields and hopefully buy time for the support to get back. It just didn't happen, and now it gives Illinois the stronghold position and confidence. Honestly, things were not going well in this attack.
Not at all. Where's this confident ISU dive that we saw in second point that just denied 5 minutes of push out of Briarcliff? I want that ISU Academy back. This is the one that needs to come back alive in order to move through this point. Briarcliff are fully in control right now, trying to find a way to trade it out. You lose Dr. Death in the process, not well protected. That's the disadvantage of having a Kiriko. Destiny's not going to be able to live any longer, and it's just Briarcliff after Briarcliff player coming up in the kill feed. 1 minute left, and the series for ISU Academy is on the line.
Briarcliff has to continue to just keep everything calm, make the comms clean, and just be ready. Double DPS ultimates online, but Chumbo has this Kitsune Rush to be able to throw in things, and that can make things a little bit interesting.
I don't know if it's going to do enough here. The Kitsune Rush is what I'm more concerned about, but that's slow! Oh my god, the combo with Jodello! Vintage tried to escape with the coach gun, but it was like he was locked up in syrup. Oh, a beautiful play. Briarcliff Chargers, they can close to taste victory. ISU Academy absolutely cannot stagger here. They finally have the ultimate fight that they want to do so, but Arise is down.
20 seconds left on the clock. You probably will get one more full fight. ISU is going to have all 5 of their ults. There's no excuse time for them not to get this. Briarcliff only has 2.
No, if ISU fails this, something has seriously gone wrong. Kitsune Rush comboed with the Primal Rage, targeting out Juven, but it's a trade. Dr. Death against the world. The healing is low. Chombo's not going to last much longer. Manages to grab the health back to sustain for now. AJMR answering with an Orbital Ray. There's no sustain on Illinois State side. Dr. Death just now respond. The Bob on the point, the last hope of contesting the payload. But what can you do? There's 4 Briarcliff players. They're all behind a rally. You're a measly, here we go, a measly hope for the Illinois State Redbird Academy. They shall fall, and the Briarcliff Chargers will win out in map 5.
Big opening Division 1 statement being made by Briarcliff that we are here and we are in this Division 1, newly both these teams are new to Division 1, but they are announcing themselves to be a team to be looked out for, especially, after, that tier break of like the ISUs and the Winthrops of the world. Everyone else, they are in it.
While it wasn't quite the massive debut that we were expecting from Briarcliff Chargers, it does show that they can compete amongst the best with the best. Illinois State Redbird Academy, they came out of the gates and showed some incredible macro decision making. I will continue to compliment that because I'm impressed from an academy roster, and it shows the power that is behind this team and management and administration. But Briarcliff, they found their own way to overcome it. Aspen's experience coaching AJMR, the rest of the squad too, well familiar with Shikigami, and all of this comboed together. Briarcliff swapped up their comp. They realized that the Doomfist wasn't working. It absolutely rolled here on Esperanza, and really, Ray, this was the true turning point in the series, was this push map.
Absolute domination coming out from Briarcliff. I mean, it was great to come back from ISU on this point on New York City, but it did not matter. Briarcliff came through strong in map number 5 and is able to take the big time victory and start out in Division 1 at 1-0. They got to be feeling extremely good about that.
ISU Academy, a very solid team, and if we're talking seeding in the group bracket, Ray, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that this is like I think it was a 4-5 match, potentially. I'd have to double check on this. Yeah, it was a 4-5 match, so they are very close in seeding. Technically an upset for Briarcliff, but you only had a couple placement games to really decide that. The first time that they're playing each other and a team that is strong as the other. I'm very excited to see the future of the Briarcliff Chargers being a newcomer to this top level of Overwatch.
Yeah, very excited to see how this season of NECC Overwatch for the fall is going to progress. And as we move into the spring as well, how these teams just continue to get better. But shout outs to Briarcliff. Huge win for you guys. You guys got to be feeling amazing about that.
They should be. Absolutely deserved from this team. You can tell the effort that was put in on both sides. And ISU Academy, I think they're a team that's going to come back even stronger. They showed excellent moments of brilliance and understanding of how to play the game of Overwatch as a team. It just wasn't consistent enough, and they kind of banged their heads against a wall when something didn't work. They kept trying it and never swapped, and it's moments like that that came back to bite them. It's not that they lack the knowledge or the skill necessarily, it's they get a little bit too stubborn on certain decisions, and that can, as we can see, when your teams are this close, those are the ones that will end up losing you the series. Great work from both teams, and Ray, I'm so happy that this is week 1. We got 10 maps of Overwatch in today, 2 5-map bangers. So excited for the rest of the season to come.
Yeah, again, as we mentioned time and time again, we could not have asked for a better opening week for NECC for Overwatch. It was absolutely incredible, and I am just looking forward to, as the season progresses, all the teams being able to be shown off and seeing the amazing talent that Collegiate has to offer.
And it has plenty. This is just a little taste of the Collegiate Overwatch scene. Much, much more to go. Over 400 teams competing in NECC Overwatch, and this is 4 of them. That's going to do it for us here on the desk today. Shout out to Carol and Skylar on the back of house for running production for us today. This is going to be it for the first week of NECC. We're going to be back bright and early. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again for some more NECC action in a couple of days.
Later, guys.